You guys ready? Everybody say, I'm the one. I'm not, that wasn't good enough. I'm the one. There we go. High five your neighbor, say, dang, you look good. That's right. All right, before we jump in, first things first, big shout out, big round of applause for my team for putting this thing together. If it wasn't for my staff, this wouldn't happen. Another clap for the vendors in the back. You guys are fed well, you're hydrated well, this is good. All right, this video, I started this video for a reason. I looked at my upbringing and I realized that I was the one. If you look at my family tree and my history, it's all obesity, it's all disease, it's cancer, it's heart disease, it's all the things. And if you know my story and you know my background of my dad and what happened, there is a moment where a paradigm shift happened. And I saw what happened with my family, and I said, I don't want that for me, and I don't want that for my kids one day. And there was a decision made. And you know, a lot of people, they've seen me and they talk to me and they say, man, I just wish I had genes like you so it could be easier. And I'm gonna tell you that I don't have good genes, right? Like a long line of heart disease, a long line of cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, this is my family tree. But there is a moment when I draw the line and I say, that's not gonna be me. You guys with me? And you have to understand that you're not gonna accept that, but this is what today is about, is not accepting that. But to do that, we gotta act different. We gotta step into something different. So this is what today's about. It's about equipping you to create the paradigm shift. If you haven't had it yet, today is about the paradigm shift. And also, if you know me well enough, there's gonna be a lot of health, and there's gonna be a lot of preaching today. So I got my pulpit, I'm ready to go. So starting this off, in Exodus 34:7, here's what he says. He does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of their parents to the third and the fourth generation. Why do I share that? Because the actions that we do or don't do today will affect generations behind us. Do you guys see that? Where we are is probably the generational curses from generations ahead of us. So why is this empowering? Because today, when you act different, this is not about you. This is about you changing generations behind you. Do you guys see that? I know that when I step into something different today, all of the things that were behind me with my family, I know that when I act different today, what I know is that my son is set up differently, that my grandkids are set up differently, that I am not doing this so that I can feel or look a certain way, but I'm doing this so that way down the line, my children's children's children will have a different lineage because of decisions that we make today. Does that make sense? So understand that, guys, this goes way beyond us, but this is us making the decision to save many, many coming ahead of us. So here's what you gotta know. Your actions have the potential to do great things today, but they also have the potential to do really terrible things in the future. So today I'm gonna ask you to act differently, to walk in something differently. Because here's what I believe. I believe everybody here was anointed for health. I think health is your God-given birthright. I believe that if we were made in the image of God, that we were born healthy, we were born to be abundant. You guys with me on that? So that leads us. So here we go. I say, where are we right now? Well, let me ask, wait, where's my family? There you go. Look at that. So if you guys don't know me, this is my family. This is everything I just said. This is why I do it. I do it so that those little kids grow up differently and they know something differently. When we talk about a paradigm shift, one thing I'll share is how we speak to our children and how we speak to ourselves has to change. So I'm going to ask you guys, in your mind, I want you to walk into your bathroom, and I want you to look at your sink, and then I want you to look to the side, and there's a cabinet on your wall. What do you guys call that cabinet? That's the first problem. The language that we use instills sickness and a mindset of sickness into our kids. Do you guys see that? If you were to ask my 4-year-old where our medicine cabinet is, he would have no idea what you're talking about. Because we have a health cabinet in our house. Vitamins are in there, toothpaste is in there. Like, we don't have medicine in those cabinets. So do you see how there's moments and things in our life where we have to learn to start speaking differently so that we can see something different, right? So now, where's our health right now? Here we go. So, Bible says, enemy comes to steal, kill, and what? So let me ask you this. If I wanted to destroy a society, how would I do it? How would Satan come in and destroy our culture? I'm going to tell you how. First thing he would do is he would convince you that you're broken. He would convince you the lie that you're broken. He would convince you that the innate healing power that God has placed inside every one of us is insufficient. He would convince you that the natural healing things that are innately in our body to help us fight disease like cholesterol and fevers are something to be feared, and they're a dangerous thing. He would convince you that treating symptoms that you have with drugs is the easy way out, and that's what you should do. I would convince you that changing your lifestyle is going to be too hard and too much work, and that you shouldn't do it because you're probably going to fail, just like you did last time. I would get inside your mind, and I would break you in your mind. That's the first thing I would do. Second thing I would do if I wanted to destroy a society is I would destroy the food supply. I would convince you that processed food that was made in a lab was healthier than the food God put on this earth already for you to eat. I would convince you that synthetic milk formulated by Bill Gates in the lab was healthier for you than the milk that God put in your body to feed your children. I would convince you that bugs and fake meat were better sources of protein than the grass-fed, pasture-raised animals that roam our earth. Guys, here's the thing. The reason we're so sick as a culture is because he's already convinced us of all those things. And if you've bought into that lie, then this is the road that we're down. So here's the thing. We have to, number one, call out the lie of the enemy and understand that all of these things that we see, anything that goes against God's word is a lie. If we know that God only speaks in truths, that anything that goes against that truth has to be a lie, we have to call it out and know that I don't walk in any direction that goes, I walk the opposite way. Does that make sense? So because we bought into this lie, where does that let us right now? What that means, so right now 42% of our country is classified as obese. If you take this and expand it into overweight and obese, that's 67% of our country. Guys, that's 2 out of 3 people in our country are classified as overweight or obese right now. Here's the thing. It's not just about the aestheticness of being overweight, but it's what comes with us being overweight. So I don't know if you know this, but we spend about $173 billion on medical expenses directly connected to obesity-related conditions. Marinate in that for 1 second. $173 billion of medical expenses directly connected to obesity-related health conditions. What if I'm just going to plant this in your mind. What if we took that and we all decided that we were going to make a change, right? And we flipped the script and we were able to take that $173 billion and build more churches or feed our kids better food or do more productive things with this money that we're spending out on sickness. Do you guys see that? Like how much bigger this can be. But here's the thing. We've been told this lie that this is how it's going to be, and there's nothing that we can do to overcome it. So now here's what I'm going to tell you guys. If you look at how much we're spending, the other thing you got to realize is this. When we talk about making healthy changes, the first thing I always hear from people is, yeah, but isn't being healthy super expensive? Right? You guys been there? This was me growing up. Listen, just so you guys know too, I grew up on Pop-Tarts and corn dogs. Like I was there. I don't want you to think that I grew up any different. Like we had Taco Bell like 3 days a week. Like this is my upbringing. So just know that first. But here's what you have to understand is that you will pay for your health one way or another. You will always pay for your health. You're either going to pay for it on the front end or you're forced to pay for it on the back end. Now, the problem is this. The average American right now in our country is spending, they pay about $13,000 a year in medical bills. And that's medical bills related to prescription drugs that we have to take. You know, the average American right now over 18 is on 13 prescription medications. You have to understand that you're going to pay for your health. I'm going to encourage you today to invest in your health instead. Invest in your health on the front end so you're not forced to pay for it on the back end. Because at the end of the day, it's going to happen. So now, when we don't do this as a culture, and we've accepted obesity, we've accepted this, and this is the part I'm getting, just so you guys know, by the way, my favorite sermons I hear at church, when I go to church, my favorite ones, is when I sit where you are, and I feel like the pastor's speaking right at me, and I feel convicted. You guys know what I'm talking about? When you leave, and on the way home, you're like, son of a gun. I need to make some changes, right? My prayer is that something like that gets stirred up in you today, because this is what has to happen, is that there's gonna be some stuff that's gonna like stir some uncomfortableness, and that's okay. I want you to marinate in that, and that's good. But here's what happens, that a lot of stuff on social media right now says that it's okay to stay overweight. It's okay to embrace your body and be big. Hey, it's okay to be big. It's okay. Like, don't let anybody body shame you into losing weight. I'm going to go against that. I'm going to tell you that's not okay. It's not okay to accept disease and sickness into your life, because, again, it's not about the weight, but it's about what does that weight represent. The weight represents chronic disease going down the line. So I'm going to tell you that do not accept that. This is another way for them to keep you sick and keep you not dead, but not healthy, but just merely toeing the line all the way down to where you need to be a part of this system with more drugs. You guys see this? Because this is what happens now. When we look at it, this is what is in the pipeline for our children. Boom. We've been such a quick fix culture, they have now okayed it to have bariatric weight loss surgery for kids as young as 12. Because what they're saying, if you read the article and look this up, what they're saying is that your children are not overweight because of, lifestyle decisions that they're making, but it's a biological disease that we have as a culture. That's why they're overweight and they can't lose it. So let's not overwhelm our children because they're already stressed enough. Let's just open up weight loss surgery and we'll do that. Yeah, not okay, right? If you feel that in the room. Now, here's why. Because if you look at what we're feeding our kids, here's the propaganda. The propaganda also now says that you're better off eating Lucky Charms than a piece of meat. This is literally what is being promoted into our kids. You're better off eating processed cereal. In fact, you guys remember the food pyramid growing up? Yeah? Anybody? Never mind. Don't raise your hand. But like when you think about the food pyramid, here's what you got to also understand. The food pyramid that they've done now, they've modified it. So you would think that as time goes on, we've gotten smarter, that this would get better, right? Wrong. This is what we say. So if you look carefully, the very bottom of this list is ground beef. Above ground beef is Lucky Charms, is chocolate-covered almonds, that you're better off eating chocolate-covered almonds than an egg. This is what we're telling people. And here's the thing, if you're not someone that challenges the system, or if you're not someone that critically thinks this stuff through, and we trust what's being said to us, this is what we do. So the idea is this, is that our money is going out somewhere, and we have to be aware of this. So now, here's where the money is going. Now, recently, I would say that in the last 4 to 5 years, there's been a drastic change in health. Every year it gets worse, but there's been a drastic change for the worse in the last 4 to 5 years. So this is what this chart represents is the money spent on public health. Now, here's the idea that I get it. Like, as time goes on, we should be spending more money towards health, right? Like, that's normal. But isn't it weird that in 2020, there is a drastic spike in expenditures? Mega spike in 2020. What was formulated in 2020? What did we put a lot of money towards? Who made a lot of money in 2020? Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. A lot of money went out. So you would think that if a lot of money went out to help, we would be a lot healthier. Do you guys agree? Next slide. This has led us to this. Over the years, myocarditis in kids. We have never seen inflammation of kids' hearts bursting ever. That is a weird thing to find. Why is it that all of a sudden, 2021, there is a mega spike. We've seen it all over the news, right? Football players are running around, all of a sudden they just drop of a heart attack. Kids running on the basketball court, nothing happens, they drop of a heart attack. This doesn't happen. How does this happen? What happened in 2020 that all of a sudden leads up to our kids having this massive spike? Go one more slide. Now we're also normalizing miscarriage and infertility. You pull these numbers, same thing. 2021 and on, mega spike in women having infertility issues and miscarriages. Guys, there's no way around this. There's no way to say it softly, except there is a lot of people injecting a lot of poison in ourselves during this time. And even if you weren't the one to get the shot, you have to understand that viral shedding is a very real scientific thing. And these aren't, I didn't just make this graph, by the way. This is actually what's going on. So viral shedding comes around, and even if you weren't the one, this is unfortunately what has happened. So when we have to be awake, today needs to be an awakening, because a lot of this right here can change when we become awake and we right here decide that this has to be different. You guys with me on this? Like, this has to be different going forward. Not that it should, not that I hope it's different, but walking out of this room today, we have to decree and make a covenant right here that things will be different so that we don't see that number go even higher as these years go on. You guys with me on this? Okay. Let's go one more. So, can anybody read that? Doctor says, your disease is caused by your lifestyle. And the lady says, so I should change my lifestyle? And the doctor says, no, here's a pill. Go ahead, go one more slide. Here's why we're going to talk about this. I'm going to break down the top 5 medications that are currently prescribed in our country. I don't like talking about this stuff, by the way, but I have to talk about it, because if we don't know about it, then we get sucked into this right here. So, statin drugs. So what a statin drug is, it's a cholesterol medication. Do me a favor, raise your hand if you or someone that you know is currently taking a cholesterol statin medication, right? Almost every hand in the room. So let's break this down. Cholesterol medication, first thing you have to realize is that cholesterol is a very good thing. Cholesterol gets produced in the body when there's an injury. Your body naturally takes cholesterol, sends it for healing, okay? Majority of your brain is actually made of cholesterol. A lot of the breast milk you give to your baby to be thriving, a lot of it is high in cholesterol. Cholesterol is a very good thing. But if I give you cholesterol and I lower your cholesterol, what's the concern? Why do we give cholesterol drugs? That if you have high cholesterol, that you're going to end up with heart attack and stroke, right? Why is it that the majority of people that die with heart attack or stroke have low cholesterol, not high cholesterol? Because when I give you a Band-Aid that chemically lowers your cholesterol, but I don't fix why your body's creating high cholesterol, and I synthetically try to lower this number over here, but I don't fix why your body's doing it over here, and the disease or the problem builds over here, do you see how it's still going to happen, but now it's going to happen worse? Do you guys see that? Here's the other thing. What we don't realize is that by chemically altering your cholesterol, you develop a 1,400% increased risk of peripheral neuropathy, numbness and tingling in your hands and feet. If the doctor told you that before he gave you that pill, would you still take it? No, we don't share those things. Then you have to realize that you have a 12% sensitivity decrease to insulin when you take a cholesterol drug, a 25% decrease in the absorption rate of insulin, which means that if you're on a statin drug, the chance of you being diagnosed with type 2 what? Goes up significantly. In fact, if you are over the age of 60 and you are on a statin medication, there is a 65% chance you will become type 2 diabetic and need insulin because of the chemical and how this is affecting your body. Then you go down, the rate long-term, because we don't talk about long-term stuff, the rate long-term, if you are on a statin medication and you lower the cholesterol, but the majority of your brain is made of healthy cholesterol, what they're showing now is that the increased risk that you have of Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's significantly goes up. But we don't talk about this. Then we go down to high blood pressure. And this actually shocked me the most. Do you guys know where this came from? I'm very big, by the way, in knowing if I'm going to put anything in my body, I want to know what it is and I want to know where it came from. Anybody else? Okay, high blood pressure medication. This is great. There is a guy in Latin America studying viper snakes. And what he found was when a viper snake bites you, the venom from a viper snake, the reason why it kills its prey is that venom significantly plummets your blood pressure and you die, okay? So this guy goes, hey, this is kind of cool. Maybe I can take this and we can use this to help people with high blood pressure. And they, in a lab, synthetically created the top 12 blood pressure drugs on the market today are synthetic viper snake venom that slightly lowers your blood pressure to help people not fix why they have high blood pressure, but continue to synthetically and chemically balance it down on the numbers. If I give you snake poison and I give it to you slowly over many years, is that going to create life or death in your body? Come on, y'all. We got to see this. Acid reflux. Another top 3 medications. This is what you got to realize. If I give you an acid reflux medication, the intent by that is to do what to your acid reflux in your gut? To drop it, right? I'm going to lower the acid reflux number. I'm going to lower the stomach acid. Well, here's the problem. If you have too low stomach acid, the reason you have stomach acid is help you digest food and help you break down and absorb vitamins. The number 1 vitamin in your gut that you need to absorb are B vitamins, right? That's what stomach acid helps you do. Do you know the system in your body that is very, very, very dependent on a B vitamin? The nervous system. The nervous system that is regulating every other system in your body is dependent on B vitamins. So if I give you an acid reflux pill and I lower your stomach acid and you no longer can break down and absorb B vitamins, now we're deficient, and then we develop a lot of neurological problems. And this gets even better. When you do this, there it goes. Neurological conditions, this also goes down, and by the way, do you know, it's so good, I love this. When you look at acid reflux and we're lowering acid reflux, do you guys know why we actually have acid reflux? It's not because we have too much, it's because we actually have too little acid in our stomach. And if you've ever been here and I've instructed you to help get you through this, and I say, hey, if you're having acid reflux, you know the best thing you can do naturally to help acid reflux? Take apple cider vinegar. Take some extra acid, and when you put more acid in, it actually helps balance it out naturally. But when you get a chemical to drop it even further, this is why we have more problems, and this is why you don't ever see it go away. Go. Okay, NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Like, what does it stand for? Anybody know? This is like the pain pills that we take. This is like the Vicodin. This is all the, what's the main one we always take? Ibuprofen, right? That kind of stuff. This is what the pain pills do. This is actually the guy who invented ibuprofen and pain pills. He won a Nobel Prize for this. We actually gave this guy a Nobel Prize. I don't know who let him do that, but when you look at this, this is why this is big. The same pathway in your body that regulates inflammation and pain is the same pathway that stimulates healing. So if I give you an anti-inflammatory pill, the reason why it works is it blocks the pain pathway. It blocks the inflammation pathway, which drops inflammation. But if I block that pathway, and that's the same pathway for healing, what else do you no longer have? Healing. That's why people who need to take these pills, you stay in pain longer. You have this reoccurring cyclical pain, which is why when you stop taking the pain pill, the pain comes back. Why? Because it's the Band-Aid. You never fix the problem, and then you continue on taking this pill. So this is the other crazy part about this one, is that when you take this, if you take an ibuprofen bottle and you go back to the warning sign and you read the actual, what it tells you, if you read the warning sign, do you know what it says on there? Most common side effect of that drug is stomach ulcers. If you have a bottle, which I hope you don't, but if you have a bottle, go look at it and read the warning label. The number 1 side effect is stomach ulcers. When patients come in and I see they've been on NSAIDs for a long time, ibuprofen for a long time, the first question I ask is, how is your gut? And they say, terrible. Why? This is what we do. We never use, a pill will never sit here and treat or help a problem. What it does is it opens up a cascade for new problems. Do you see that? Okay, now my favorite, Ozempic. Who's heard of Ozempic? The whole hands should all go up right now. This is one I've been fired up about a lot because, okay, if you have not heard about Ozempic, Ozempic is a drug that came out that was designed initially for diabetes, but we have now changed it and manipulated this and marketed it as a weight loss pill, right? This is the miracle drug we've all been waiting for. We've all said, hey, I can't lose weight. I need a magic pill, right? You see the magic pill? And this has been the one. Here's why this works. Does anybody know where this drug came from? There's a venomous lizard called the Gila monster, okay? Look this up. It's a Gila monster lizard. It's the black and orange ones, okay? The venom of a Gila monster, how it kills its prey is that when it releases venom, what that venom does is it paralyzes your organs. Literally shuts down your stomach. So when I do the gastric bypass surgery for kids, what we're doing is we're stapling their stomach shut so that they don't feel hungry and they eat less, right? Instead of saying, hey, let me help you with controlling your portions, I'm going to staple your stomach shut. What this drug does is it paralyzes your organ. It literally paralyzes the stomach so that you don't excrete what you should, so you feel full and bloated, so you don't eat as much. So you just stop eating. But the problem is if you've ever looked at people who've been on this pill long enough and they're losing weight, but if you look carefully at these people, they look emaciated because it's eating away their muscle, it's eating away their organ tissue, and they're creating a whole host of other problems. Here's where I'm going to tell you guys, if you know somebody on this drug, I am imploring you, please talk to them and get them off of this medication as fast as possible. And if they don't listen, then I need you to pray for them. Because this drug is right now killing a lot of people, and it's shutting down internal organs. Guys, the point of this is that there's never a magic pill that's going to solve our problems. Here's the fun part. All of these things you see on this, all of these things are lifestyle induced that we can now fix. We have the power to cure all that stuff without resorting to that stuff. But as you see, everything that you take from the outside in, healing is not an outside in thing. Healing is an inside out process. But when we look from the outside to bring it in, this is when disease and destruction comes in, which has led us now to being here. 93% of our country suffers from a metabolic disorder. 93%. So when I was talking to you guys about coming today, and I said, man, we are so metabolically broken, how have we gotten here? Let me ask you this. 93%, if I told you that 93% of the water buffalo population had a disease, you would tell me, oh my God, they're eventually going to go what? Extinct. I'm telling you that 93% of our culture has a metabolic disease. What do you think is going to happen to us if we don't wake up and change our ways? You guys hear me? And this is why this number gets worse. Last year, this time exactly last year, we gave this exact presentation, and that number was 88%. 1 year later, I had to double check this because 1 year later, we're now at 93. And I know when I say this, if you were like me, I was literally the guy who would sit there and be like, well, that sucks because I'm the 7%. I'm not in that group, right? I'm going to tell you that a lot of us think that we are, and you're probably not. And if you're not there right now, then the lifestyle you're leading is most likely getting you there, or the family people around you. And let's say this, if you are the 7%, which, listen, I hope this whole room is that 7%, here's what I'm going to encourage you. You know people, obviously, that are in this route, right? So now it's our job to help bring those people around us to make sure that people we love and care about stop ending up in this side, right? When you hear metabolic disorder, though, when I first heard it, I did a poll, and I asked people, when you hear metabolic disorder, what do you think of? And most people say, well, I think of like metabolism, like weight loss. I can't lose weight. Go one more side. This is metabolic disorders is an umbrella classified as all these things. If you have high cholesterol, if you have diabetes, if you're overweight, if you have an autoimmune condition, if your thyroid does not work, if you have fatty liver disease, if you have arthritis, if you have chronic pain, there is a massive umbrella of metabolic disease. When you say metabolic disease, what that means, every process in your body is a metabolic process to do something. And if there's processes that are broken, then we now have a metabolic disease, which then leads us to here. So a lot of what we're looking at is how do we get out of this? Well, sometimes we feel like we get stuck, because again, going back to what I said, remember my family, hey, it's not my fault because it runs in my family, right? Well, let me ask you this. When you look at genes, there's something that's important. Being overweight runs in my family. Here's what you have to understand. Bruce Lipton he's a biologist. What Bruce Lipton found, he studies something called epigenetics. Have you ever heard of that, epigenetics? Okay, so what epigenetics It's basically you were given a certain genetic structure, right? That's good. Epigenetics says that you have the power now to change the expression of those genes by your lifestyle. The things that you do or don't do, you have the ability to modify and change those genetic expressions, right? So, did anybody know, you guys all know Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Right? Did anybody know his kids? Watch this. So, this is Arnold. This is his two sons. Two of his sons. He's got a couple kids. So, these two boys right here, when Arnold and his wife had these two boys, his wife and him split up. The boy on the left grew up in Arnold's house. The boy on the right grew up in his mom's house. Same exact genes, same mom, same dad, same exact genetic makeup. One grew up living a different lifestyle than the other. Do you guys see the difference? I hope you do. But here's the idea, is that when I look at even my own family, I look at me and my sister, for example, same exact genetic expression. I grew up with my dad. My sister grew up with my mom. When they divorced, we are very different people, very different lifestyles. So what I want to encourage you with this is that regardless of what's happened in your family tree again, you have 100% the power in your hand right now to change what happens going forward. But we have to make a decision to say, again, I'm not going to accept what that says. You guys with me on this? Okay, so now we're going to get into the good stuff. This is all like the doom and gloom. Now we get to the fun. Okay, so how do we change this? We're going to boost health the max living way. So now walking into this and making this a positive change. So we talk about metabolism, metabolic disorders. So first we have to identify is what is your metabolism? What does that mean? So I put this car on here because first things first, what I should have did was put a temple, because the way that I think about this is that in Scripture it says our body is the temple of God, right? We know that. The question I'm going to ask you is, do you treat your body that way? If we are the temple of God, do we treat it this way? Or, like the food that I eat, the way I work out, the things I tell myself, if this was God's vessel, if you knew that Jesus was standing right behind you all day long and like shadowed you all day long, would you speak to yourself the same way that you do today? Would you eat the same way? Would you walk the same way? Would you do the same things you do, or would it be different? I would hope that it would be the same, because he is with you all day long, right? There's the caveat. Now the car in here, the reason why the car is there is that you are a high performance car. What you put in your body will allow it to run or allow it to slow and shut down. You guys with me on that? So what you fuel your body with is very important, which is why later Dr. Alanna is going to be talking about the quality of food you put in your body matters. This is why I decided that Taco Bell does not honor my body. I just make a change there. Now the furnace is this. The hotter your metabolism gets, this is how your body breaks things down. So essentially, you break this down. Metabolism is your body's way of breaking down carbs, fats, and proteins and utilizing it for fuel and utilizing it for the processes of your body, right? That's what it's for. So if that's great, then we want to be putting high quality things in to make sure my engine or make sure my furnace is working as good as it can, as long as it can. So then that leads us to something called your BMR. This is your basal metabolic rate, okay? By the way, real quick, who's already signed up for our 40-day health challenge? Raise your hand. Come on, here we go. Okay, at the break, we're gonna give you a chance to go and make sure you get signed up if you haven't already. But your BMR, I want you to, if you take notes if you're doing the challenge, because this is gonna be a part of this. Your BMR, basal metabolic rate, what this number is how many calories your body burns at rest. So if I wake up, for example, and I decide that it's the Sabbath Sunday, which means I don't have to work, I'm going to sit and I'm going to do nothing all day long, and I just lay on my couch all day long, if my basal metabolic rate, I'm just going to throw a number out there, is 2,000, okay? That means that I will burn 2,000 calories if I do nothing. That's just what my body does to survive, okay? Now this is an interesting number, because this is going to help you identify, hey, if your goal is to put weight on, or your goal is to take weight off, or if your goal is to do anything of these sorts, you want to be mindful of what that number is so you know how much food to be fueling your body with. Also, if I want to be burning fat at rest, I want that number to be as high as I can get it. So part of the challenge that we're going to be doing with you guys is showing you how do you increase that number in a healthy way. How do you help who wants to burn fat while you sleep at night? Every hand should be up in the room right now. This is the idea. How do we get ourselves to be doing this? So we want to make sure this number is healthy and strong because it was me. I always use me because I can relate to all you guys. When I was a kid, I used to be so mad where I would go to my friends and they'd be like, hey, do you want to swap lunches? And I'd be like, yeah, yours looks way better. And they'd have like a cookie, and I would look at the cookie and I'd smell it and I would gain 5 pounds. And then my friend would eat the cookie and lose 5 pounds. Who hates those people? Just kidding. So here's what happens. Your basal metabolic rate, the higher that number is, you have something called metabolic flexibility. I'm not encouraging you to go and eat cookies, but what I'm saying is that when the basal metabolic rate's up and you can burn fat easier, these are the people that can get away with eating more things and their body still burns fat. Does that make sense? So we want to raise this up. So then we look at body composition. Now, here's the reality. I don't know how they got my picture up there. I'm on the right, by the way. So more muscle burns fat. So when you think about this, the fat burning, everything we Google right now and everything you YouTube, right? It's all about how can I burn fat easier, faster, quicker? What's the best way to do this most efficiently? And I'm going to tell you that burning fat is like a game of chess, right? When you want to burn fat effectively and do it well long term, what this means is the more muscle mass that you have on your body, the more your body will burn fat at rest. You guys got me there? So the more muscle mass you have, the easier you are to burn fat. Now here's why I love this slide. Whenever I talk about this to the ladies, every time you guys go, but Dr. Mike, I don't want to get too bulky. I don't want to see my biceps to get too big. And I'm like, do you think it's that easy? You're going to go grab one dumbbell and like, boom. And it's so funny, but like, the reality is like it takes a lot of work and a lot of, it takes hard work to get to this point. But the reality also is that when you put lean muscle mass on your body and you convert, this is what's going to happen. Your body will burn more fat at rest. So a lot of what we're going to talk about in the second half is how do we put lean muscle mass on your body so that way we're not just doing something to burn fat really quickly and get like the short-term burn, but we want to figure out how can I effectively burn fat longer and make this sustainable, right? Because we want the sustainable way of doing this. Does that make sense? We good there? Okay. So, one last thing on this. I was looking this up. So there's one of my good friends in the room who's actually a bodybuilder. He's here today. You'll see him when you get your challenge signed up. But we looked this up. Yes, I know. When you look this up, they found that bodybuilders, and I'm not going to say that they're healthy, because if you look at what they eat, sometimes they're like shoving down Oreo cookies in their milkshakes. But if you look at bodybuilders, because they have so much lean muscle on their body, of anybody else, they have the lowest rates of cancer of anybody else. Because when you have a high amount of lean muscle on your body, the metabolic processes in your body work that much more efficient. So you have to understand this is not about being ripped and having a six-pack. This is about putting healthy muscle on your body and removing unhealthy fat off of your body so that your body can literally function better. It can work better. It can work easier. Is it good there? Okay. Now, to do that, there's going to be a series of health things we're going to talk about today. So the 5 essentials, if you're a patient, you should memorize all these. You should know them. If you're a guest, memorize these and know them because you're going to want them. So whenever somebody comes at me and they say, hey, Dr. Mike, I'm wanting to get things looked at. I want to reevaluate where I'm at with my health. How do you do it? And I say, this is my litmus test. Whenever something is not right in my health or my family's health, I walk through these 5 things and I say, are you getting adjusted? And I'm going to talk at the end about why that's massively important. But are you getting adjusted to make sure that your nervous system is regulating your body well? Are you putting good quality food in? Are you having a clear mindset right here? Are you exercising, moving your body? And are you eliminating toxins out? Are you toxic on the inside? These are things I kind of just do a reflection. I just go through these things and say, what's not right in my life right now that needs attention, right? So these are the things we're going to go through. And I call them the 5 essentials, by the way. These are not the 5 options not the 5 things to pick that you want. These are like 5 essential things that have to be addressed or looked at as we go, okay? So we're going to start with mindset. Now, who here has ever felt like this? Nobody? Oh my God, this is me yesterday. So when you think about stress and weight loss, why do we have a hard time losing weight, or why do we walk into weight loss resistance when we're under stress? Here's what happens. So your body goes into something called high peak cortisol, high adrenaline, okay? Now when I say the word stress, most of us correlate stress as a bad thing. I'm going to tell you that stress is a good thing. We've demonized stress, but stress is a good thing for your body. In fact, if you think about like when a moment comes in and you're stressed and you need to get to safety and get away, cortisol and adrenaline wake you up and they get your blood pumping so that you can get to safety, right? It pumps blood to your muscles so that you can get away. Here's why it's become bad, is that we don't address why we're stressed. We try to just chemically lower our stress. So let me give an example. If I took all of us here in this room right now, okay, and I just had all of the people volunteering throw a bunch of rattlesnakes in the room and lock the doors, who would feel like cortisol spike through the roof? Yes, okay? Here's what we do though. All the snakes are coming around the room right now and you're like, ah, and you're on the table and you're freaking out. Here's what we do though. We don't get out of the room. We say, does anybody have a drug to help me manage my stress? And we take an anxiety pill, we take a depression pill, we take a pill to lower our cortisol chemically, but we stay in the room. Oh, I hope that landed with somebody today. Here's what we do. We take the pill and we stay in the environment. We don't change the environment causing your stress, but we chemically lower your body's stress response, which means inside you are killing yourself. And this is why everything is shutting down when you live in stress. Stress is good. How we respond to stress is what becomes toxic. Can I get an amen there? So here's what you got to realize. You don't need a pill to bring down stress. You don't even need a supplement to help you bring down stress. I think that it's okay to take things to help as long as you are addressing the environment and the reason you're in stress. Does that make sense? You have to fix this. If you don't get the snakes out of the room, if you don't step up and get out of the room yourself, it makes no sense to try to take something to help you. Okay? Got there? So this is why we stay here. And your body, if you're under stress, your body is going to hold on to stress. It's going to hold on to weight as a protective mechanism. Think about this. Like when we were back in the primal days, right? Like when we were under stress because we were being, under survival, and we had to hold on to fat because you didn't know when you're going to eat again. So your body is primally wired to hold on to fat for survival when you're under stress. So don't get mad at yourself. So we do. We get mad. Like, why won't you go away? And we get mad, but then we don't change the situation of why we're in the stress. So here's what I'm going to encourage. As we go through now, we're going to walk through some mindset things. So the first one is this. This is where we're going to be poking the bear a little bit. Something called the arrival syndrome. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I put this picture here on purpose because what the arrival syndrome is, it's when you feel like you've arrived. It's when you feel like you've worked hard, you've done everything you can, and you've hit that peak point, and once you're there, you're like, I don't need to do anymore. I'm good enough. And this is a dangerous place to be. I will tell you that it is very lonely at the mountaintop when you're there by yourself. A lot of people work really hard in their business, and they're pushing, they're grinding and make money and to earn well for their family, and they're climbing that mountain, and you're climbing it fast, and you look around, and your family's at the bottom of the mountain, and you're standing there all by yourself. Your friends, the people that you love, are behind you at the bottom of the mountain, and they don't want to see you up there. They want you with them. But what happens is that when we get up there and we feel like we've reached this place, we stop pursuing. You stop pursuing your health because you feel like I'm good enough. We stop pursuing our wife or our spouse because we think, hey, I got the ring, like we're good enough. We're okay. We stop pursuing our children and relationships around us because if I asked you, I say, hey, how is the relationship with your kids right now? You say, it's fine. If I said, how's the relationship around you? It's fine. How's work? It's fine. The I'm fine zone is a very dangerous place to be. Because here's what happens. We start comparing ourselves to people that are less than us, who are worse than us. Remember, my sister used to always do this. She used to always say, like, well, listen, at least I'm like, yes, I'm eating McDonald's, Mike, but at least I'm not doing cocaine. I'm like, how'd you compare that, right? But what we do is we say, listen, I know that I'm not like the most connected with my family, but at least I'm not as bad as Joe over there, right? How many times have we been there? This game of comparison, and it becomes very dangerous because now what you've done is you have validated why it's okay for you to continue living this lifestyle here. Now what it says, I put this up here, like when did okay become good enough? Like when did it become okay to just be okay? Like one time I was at this retreat and this, one of the pastors there, he looked at all of us and he said, your spouse did not marry you for you to live a mediocre life, to be mediocre connected to them. Your kids don't go to school and brag about their half-in parent who's half paying attention on their phone when you're like, hey, yeah, I'll play ball with you, and they're like scrolling. Your kids don't brag about that. But how many times do we get caught doing that? Listen, I'm right there. I'm that guy too. I've been there too, right? It's recognizing that when we're there, things need to change. Things need to change. Bible says, I just love going to the Bible because this is all the answers there, right? Revelation 3:16 says, because you are lukewarm, neither hot or cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. We need to stop being lukewarm. We need to stop being half in, half out. Yeah, clap for that. You can clap for that. Mediocrity needs to stop. We need to stop being okay with being mediocre and know that after today, I need you walking out of this room, stepping into something greater. I need you walking out of this room saying, I'm going to make a bigger commitment to me, to my kids, to my friends, to my loved one, whoever it is. There needs to be something bigger coming out of this. So understand that the actions that you have right now, what I want to ask you, we're going to go through some drills here in a second, but what I want to ask you is that the life that you dream of, okay? The life that you dream of, do your current actions support that life? And if it doesn't, today's the day we start to map out how do we fix that. So what I want you to do is I want you to pull out the sheet that has the wheel on it, okay? This is your wheel of life, I call it. It's a pie chart. Now, I left this blank intentionally because what I want you to do is I want you to start to label each of these boxes which are things that are important to you, okay? So some things that could help you with this is like maybe you label one block going to be your health, okay? Label one block health. Then label another block finances. Then label another one relationships. Label another one spiritual walk. Hobbies, recreation. I want you to pick things that are important to you, and I want you to label each of those boxes. Personal growth. Now, once you've labeled your boxes, we're going to do a drill here, and what I want you to start to graph this. Okay? The center of that chart is 0. All the way out to the end is going to be 10. You're going to grade this on a scale of 0 to 10. And this is a reflection, guys. I do this. My wife and I do this every quarter to check in. And what I want you to do is I want you to, once you've labeled your squares or your triangles there, I want you to grade yourself and be very honest with yourself right now and say, where would I give myself? Not where do I want to be, but where am I right now? So I'm going to give you guys, as you're filling this out, I'm going to be super transparent, and I'll walk you through. When I did mine, I had my family, I had my finances, I had my business, I had my relationship, right? I had my health, my walk with God, I had all these things, and I mapped them all out. And there's a season where we go through seasons, and in the season, I was really focused on the office, I was focused on a bunch of things, and I found that I was very much skipping my time with God. And as I looked at my chart, it was the lowest thing. And whenever I set goals, I love setting goals for things I love, right? So I love setting goals for nutrition. I love setting goals for exercise. And we fall into this thing where we like to set goals for the things we're good at because it makes us feel good. What I want you to do is ask yourself, like, not where do I want, but where do I need to be right now? So this is an honest reflection. Grade yourself from 0 to 10. So as you're going through, what I want you to remember that the goal of this exercise is not to have a perfect circle. A lot of times we do this, right? And we think, man, I'm a failure because I don't have everything a 10. I don't have everything perfectly circled. And the goal is not to have a perfect circle, but what I want to ask you is, as you're filling this out, does this align with the season of life you're in, and does it make sense of what you want? So when I filled this out, when I had my daughter, I had a brand newborn baby, and my fitness was very low, I wasn't mad at myself because I was like, listen, I got a brand new baby. I got to have grace for me in this moment. And I just said, okay, well, let me put a little bit more work here. But it's not a pass or fail. This is just a reflection on where am I and what needs more of my attention right now. The other thing that I would encourage you, if you are married or you have a significant other, this was huge when I first did this, was I would encourage you are filling this out right now for you. My encouragement is that when you go home, you do this exact drill with your spouse. But what I want you to do is I want you to fill it out independently, and I want you to fill out what you think your spouse's answers are, and let them fill out what they think you are. And this is a really good drill to see if you guys are on the same page right now. And I remember when I did this with my wife, and I thought our marriage was like a 10, and I realized it wasn't. It helped me to put a lot more realization of where we're at. Does that make sense? Like, you can, if you're going to be the one to pray for your spouse or be there for your spouse or support your spouse, you got to know where they are. If you don't know where they are, you don't know how to be there for them. So this is a really good drill to help you to be there for them in these moments. Okay, everybody got them filled out? Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to asterisk the 2 that you're going to commit to when you leave here. What are the 2 that you're going to commit to? So as you keep this going, now what you have to realize is this. We're going to dive into something called your big why, okay? Your big why is what is going to anchor you when things get rocky. Because here's the thing. It's all easy when we're in this room here together, right? It's all easy when we're all hyped up and motivated, and I'm yelling at you. This is easy. But when you go back to reality, and you wake up and the alarm clock goes off and the old you wants to hit the snooze button, or life throws you a curveball, the question is, what's going to keep you anchored? Now, there's different things, right? Like, it might be that you just, listen, summer's coming again, you just want to look hot in a bathing suit. So it can be selfish. It's okay. Don't be mad at yourself for wanting to have a selfish goal. It's okay. But what is the thing? I'm gonna say that those goals typically don't make it, like, they don't get you far enough. So I would go something a little bit deeper. And the reason I have my kids up there is, and again, I'm going to be transparent here. When I look back over my childhood, when I was this age, my dad was so unhealthy that I don't have memories of me throwing the ball with him. I don't have memories of me going on hikes with my dad. I don't have memories of me doing boy stuff with my dad as a kid because he was so unhealthy, he wasn't able to do those things. So when I look at that and I think to myself, like, I've had a long day, I don't really want to go, work out, or I'd rather just, it'd be quicker to go get the fast food than to go home and make the food. When I have those thoughts go through my head, I think about those kids right there and I say, I will not allow myself to go down that same path and do that to my kids. I will put in the extra time to make that happen. Does that make sense? It is an anchor that is so geared inside of me that Like, do I love waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and work out and do all my things? Heck no. I'm going to be honest with you. No, I don't. But do I do it religiously every single day? Yes, because of those two kids right there. I will not allow my poor health, fuel into my family like it did for me when I was a kid. So, like, there's got to be an anchor for you, whatever that is. And, like, what I want you to do as we go in this next drill is I want you to think about what's going to be your anchor. What is the thing that's going to help ground you and drive you when you have the enemy? Because listen, guys, here's what you got to realize. When you walk out of here today, you are making a commitment to yourself, and when this room collectively is making a commitment to be better, you better freaking believe the enemy is going to come 100%, right? Here's the thing. You have to make sure that your energy matches the energy of the enemy. If the enemy is coming after you, you better be ready to go. And this is where the why comes in, is it shuts off that voice. So I'm going to take a minute, and I want you to write down, like, what's going to be my anchor? What's my why? What's the thing that's going to drive me when the devil tries to come in and sidesweep you, okay? As you're writing this down, I'm just going to, you guys keep writing if you need to, but I'm just going to talk about something that's going to help you here, and it's called behavior modification versus identity modification. And the difference here is this. A lot of times we set these goals and they don't happen. Like, let's say that we're going to be doing a challenge coming up here, and there's something different that when we set a goal and we change our behaviors and we act differently and we see that it makes it work, and then all of a sudden when we stop those behaviors, we go back to our old ways, everything falls apart again, right? This is where that you have done a behavior modification. You've changed your behavior and your actions, but you have not changed what's in here. I've not changed who I am or who I see myself as. And that's why this why is important. Because like if I did this the other day with somebody, it was great, but I said, listen, somebody who was not a cigarette smoker, and I said, if I asked you if you want a cigarette, what would you say? She's like, well, no, I'm not a smoker, no. You wouldn't say, oh, no, I can't have that. You're like, no, that's not what I am. That's not who I am. I don't smoke. You have to be somebody that says, like, if you were to ask me, hey, Dr. Mike, after this, you want to go grab some McDonald's? I'd be like, I'm not somebody who eats that stuff. So it's not even a thought of do I or don't I. It goes against my character, so I just don't do that. Does that make sense? And it makes it really easy now, because I'm not like, oh, I want it, but I don't want it, or It's like, no, that's just not who I am. So you have to identify, like, is something going against your character? And if you can change the identity, then this 40-day challenge we're going to kick off is a kickstart to something. But during this process, when the identity changes, then that means that no matter what happens, your actions are in alignment with who you are here. Does that make sense? Like, here has to be the change. Not the behavior, but here has to change. Start seeing yourself as somebody who now, this is who I am, not just the things I do. So now, the last thing I'm going to have you do is this. We all like to set goals, and goals are good. I'm not a big goal guy, and the reason why, goals is about the results you want to achieve. The system is how you achieve that goal. We set goals, but then we don't achieve the goal because then we don't have a plan on how we're going to hit that thing. Does that make sense? What I want you to do is whatever you circled, if you circled, I want to make my marriage more connected, if I want to make my health better, whatever the thing that you circled on your wheel, now we're going to take 2 minutes here. I want you to write down what's the system that's going to make that happen. Give me 2 things, make it simple. Give me 2 things of what are you going to intentionally do to make that happen? So for me, when I said, hey, I'm not spending enough time with God, that was my thing. So I said, okay, what am I going to commit to? Well, I'm going to commit to waking up in the morning, and first thing I'm going to do is going to get a devotional or a Bible read. I'm going to spend the first couple minutes with God. That's line in the sand, right? That's what I'm going to do. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say prayers to my kids at night, every night. And I said, simple, doesn't take a lot of time, but I'm doing those 2 things no matter what. And I just made a thing. So whatever your circle is, I want you to say, what's the 2 actions I'm going to do to make those things happen? You got to make sure the system is in place. And this is why this gets so good, guys. I love it. This is, So you guys have heard about that quote? It's all over because it's sexy. We say this. It's like, fall in love with the process, right? We say that? Fall in love with the process. I say that. Here's what I say. The reason why they say this, fall in love with the process, is because there's actual science that backs up why this helps you. That we get addicted to the dopamine chase. So we get addicted to the pursuit. Here's what happens. Do you want to know why social media is so toxic and so good at the same time? Because when you guys are scrolling on TikTok, right, and this is a real moment here, when you're scrolling, do you want to know why you can't stop scrolling? It's because the dopamine in your brain says there's something better that is coming if you keep one more. Like, oh, that was a funny video, but there's a funnier video coming if I just keep scrolling, right? So we get addicted to like the next thing, which is why we can't stop it. But this is also a big reason why whenever we're like in a challenge, we love the challenge because we're pursuing the end of the challenge. But then if we're just addicted to the result, then once you finish the result, notice how you're like, oh, now what? You've been there before? You're like, oh, okay, well, it's over, now what? Instead of being addicted to the process to where this is just a kickstart challenge, but then this is just what we keep doing. This is just a lifestyle that we continue to keep doing. And this is why it's so, man, now we're gonna poke the bear again. This is why this attacks us in our marriages and our relationships. When we stop pursuing our spouse and we feel like we're here, we stop that pursuit and we feel like we're here. Like it's the dopamine rush of the pursuit, the dating, right? When you're dating your spouse, it's like, oh, it's so exciting. But then you're like, oh, well, we're there. We don't need to anymore. And then it falls down. So again, it's this pursuit. You want to fall in love with the pursuit of this, and this is what will make this sustainable long term. Okay. Now, watch this.
If you've ever driven to a circus, you'll see the elephants standing out on the parking lot, right? The elephants will be out on the parking lot, these huge, powerful beasts. But they don't go anywhere. They don't run. They don't move. You know why? Because they got a chain around one of their legs. A little teeny chain with a little teeny peg in the ground that these beasts could rip out any old time they feel like it. Because they got the power. They got the power. All they got to do is jerk that leg and that little peg would come out of that and rip that concrete and tear that chain, but they don't budge. You know why? Because they were taught ever since they were a little baby elephant that when you feel this chain, you have no power. From the time they were born, when you feel this chain on your leg, that means you are nothing, you're nobody, and you don't move. Because you're not here to demonstrate your power, you're here to perform. And we got a lot of Christians who aren't here to demonstrate their power, they're here to perform. And so you come to church on Sunday and you perform, but you don't have any power. You drag in church with this chain on your leg. This chain on your leg talking about, I'm coming to worship God, and I'm coming, and he's able with this chain on your leg, and he's so high you can't get over with this chain on your leg, and he's so wide you can't get around, and you got this chain on your leg, performing for the circus. And the hell is laughing at you, eating its cotton candy with that chain on your leg. It's time for you to say, in the name of Jesus Christ, get off of me. Let me go. Get that chain off of me. I'm free, and he who the Son sets free is free indeed. You're free. Walk like it. Act like it. Are you free? Are you free? Are you free? Did Jesus make you free? Then walk like it. Talk like it. Act like it. Hold your head up high and be free. He set you free. He set you free.
Come on. Let me ask you, if you're ready to be free today, say yes. Yes. Okay. You don't get to be free with that dang chain on your leg walking around. And this is why we do the challenge. The challenge is to shake you out of your routine right now. The challenge is designed to get you uncomfortable and shake things up and break these freaking chains that have been holding you back for a long time. Do you understand me? This is what this challenge is about. It's not about this fun thing we're gonna do for 40 days. It's like, no, listen. We are gonna hit this thing head first, and we're gonna see some transformation in your life in these next 40 days. And this is a kickstart to what happens from here on out. This is about being free. Whatever your bondage has been, this is about being free from that and stepping into something bigger and committing to yourself that for the next 40 days, I am committing to me. And I want you, before we lay this out, I'm going to show you what it looks like when you commit to yourself right here. Paula, give me that. This is commitment. This isn't 40 days. This is commitment to see this thing through. Go to the next one. Come on. This is commitment day in and day out. A lot of you guys, we sit here, we think that I'm never going to get out of this, and this is just how it's going to be. This is what happens when you commit day in and day out, and you say that there is something bigger and better for me, and I'm breaking the chain. It's taken a lot for me to not say a bad word. We're breaking the chain today, and we're going to do this. So, what does this challenge look like? We're going to walk through this right now. So, we are committing to 40 days of cutting out processed food and processed sugar. Listen, if I just told you to do one thing and cut out processed food and processed sugar, I promise you your life would change, if that's the thing. Now, when I set this challenge up, this was, I view this as a 40-day prayer and fast, okay? I'm going to fast away from things that are not serving to my body and are not going to help me be the best version of who God made me to be. I'm going to fast away from those things for 40 days. So for 40 days, we're cutting out processed food and processed sugar. We're going to do, for nutrition, we're going to change this and say, I'm going to eat my ideal weight in grams of protein. I'm going to show you why this is so big. I got permission to share my brother's story, but he was going on his weight loss journey, and when he came out to visit me, he thought it made sense to cut calories and to eat very low, and he lost a lot of weight. When we did the body scan, which you guys are going to do a body scan here, this breaks down how much muscle is on your body and how much body fat you have, and because he was living this certain way, he was losing weight, but he was literally losing muscle, and he was gaining fat. So the scale showed a lower number, but his muscle was going down, his body fat was going up. In 1 week, I told him, you're going to eat your ideal grams of protein, and you're going to, basically what the challenge is, we've been doing this for 1 week. He scanned himself in 1 week. He gained another 3 pounds of muscle, and he lost another 3 pounds of fat in 1 week, right? So this is why protein, and again, after the break, Dr. Lana is going to go into a lot of detail on why this is so important, but you're going to commit to eating protein first. Then we go to intermittent fasting or intermittent feasting. I don't think that everybody should fast. I don't think everybody should be feasting. I think some of us, we feast too much. Some of us, right? So here's the thing. When you embark in the challenge to save time, we're going to help you figure out, are you someone that should be fasting or someone that should be feasting? What this means is that are you going to be intermittently fasting, meaning that you're going to be, not eating for a longer window, and then your eating window is small? Or are you somebody who, right when you wake up, you're going to start your metabolism and you're going to get food right away, and then you're going to support your metabolism throughout the day by eating every 2 to 3 hours? There's benefits in both, and when we do this challenge, we're going to help you identify where should you be. Does that make sense? It's because I can't do that with everybody here. But we're going to break that down for you to help you understand who should be doing that. Now, go one more. So here's some cool facts, though, about fasting when you get into this. So to prepare myself for this here, again, fast and prayer, starting Monday, I did a 72-hour water fast. And it was to cleanse myself and clear my head of everything. And I started to research this. What they found was that if you do a 24-hour water fast, just one day, 24-hour water fast, your body starts producing intestinal stem cells that actually starts to heal leaky gut. Leaky gut's a big thing we know about. Your body, just by doing 24 hours of taking all the food out, your body will naturally start to heal leaky gut. How cool that, again, the way God created you, that when you just stop the interference, you stop the garbage coming in, He goes to work and starts to heal things. Does that make sense? So benefits of fasting. There's also benefits of fasting when it comes to, again, increasing ketones. Like when you are at 16 hours of a fast, your body starts converting sugar from fat to burning fat, and now you get ketones that actually light your brain up and you feel like you have more energy. Believe it or not, at 24 hours fasted, I feel like I just had so much energy. I'm like, this is weird. Haven't eaten anything. But this is where this comes in. So we're going to help you figure out where should you be, and if you should be doing like a 24-hour water fast. We're going to walk you through that when you do this challenge. Now, the burn fat bundle. Somebody already won the bundle. I see it over there. Somebody won this. Amen, right? Now, here's the thing. Do you have to have this for the challenge? No, you don't have to have it. Will you be significantly more beneficial and more successful if you have this? Yes, I'm going to be honest with you. Because my team and I have already done this 40 days. We started this early, have already done this, and I can tell you that those of us that had the bundle were more successful than those of us who did not. You will be more successful getting the bundle. Now, we only have a couple of them enough here, but I promise literally after today, if we need more, order the bundle today to get your discount. It's 20% off the bundle today. If you order it today, we will order it and we'll have it for you ASAP, I promise. But I'm going to walk through what this bundle has. So the first thing the bundle has is our bone broth protein. Protein is the one thing that we don't get enough of in our diet, right? And when you start to look at the quality, I've taken protein my whole life as I've done, I've been an athlete and worked out. And the problem with our protein powders, they're so toxic. You do a workout and you exercise and you think that you're giving yourself something good, but it's very toxic. What makes our protein really good is that it comes from, look at that, boom. So it's 100% grass-fed. It actually comes from regenerative farming. This protein is literally from regenerative farming, which means that the soil is renewed and fresh for the animals. There's no grain, there's no dairy, no soy. If you have a dairy allergy, bone broth protein is so healing to you. Bone broth in general is healing to your gut. So bone broth is going to be healing. There's no processed fillers, no seed oils, no pesticides. This is a big thing. It's very difficult to find a protein powder that's third-party tested. It's very hard to find that. And our protein powder is third-party tested. So this is why I promote this so much, is because I want the best quality for you and your family if you're going to be working hard and you want to support yourself through that, right? It only makes sense. So now we're going to play a game. Best bang for your buck. Obviously, I want to give you guys the best product for the best price. So if we look at all sources of protein out there, if we start off with a piece of grass-fed, regenerative sourced steak that had no bad things in it, right? Because I want to give you pound for pound. We're going to match things that are even, okay? And we're going to use 24 grams of protein as our baseline. If you were to buy 24 grams of protein in a grass-fed steak, do you know what you would pay for that? Throw out a number. $18 for 24 grams. What do you think? $50? It's actually, you guys are really high. It's actually a little lower. So actually, you would be paying about $7.63. Here's why. Because typically in a steak like that, it would be double, right? So this is 24 grams in a steak that's normal. That's about 14-ounce steak, 10-ounce steak. You're going to be double that. So you're about $7.63 for 24 grams of protein in a grass-fed, healthy steak, right? Now let's say you want to get a beef stick, because that's an easy snack on the go. So each beef stick that you're buying at the store is roughly 9 grams of protein. So if I'm going to get 24 grams of protein, how much am I going to pay for that? What do you think? There you go. I'll wait. Trust me, I'll wait. There we go. You're going to pay $6.37. So it's actually cheaper to get the beef stick, okay, for 24 grams. Now, what's a good breakfast item we can do to get good protein? Eggs. So if you're going to get pasture-raised, organic eggs, where those chickens are just roaming the free world, and it's perfectly good, healthy egg, for 24 grams of egg protein, how much are you paying? You got it. What was it? $3. Good job. Look at that. He's a mathematician. Okay, so now here's the other thing. Take all that. Now we put our protein to the test. So our protein, regenerative source, clean, no fillers, no additives. If you look at pound for pound for 24 grams of our protein powder, you're going to literally pay $2.59. So here's the thing. Do I think that you should get protein from Whole Foods first? Yes, right? Make sure you know that. But the reality is, with life and needing to get it in after workouts, or maybe you need a shake in the morning, literally this is the best priced that you're going to get for the quality of protein source that you can find. Now, this price is this low because today when you buy this, you're getting it much discounted. So again, here's what I would encourage you. I would say buy as many of those protein bottles as you can today for you and your family. Like, there's never a moment in my home when that's not there. Because I put this in my kids' yogurt. I put it in my stuff. This gets put into everything that we eat because we want to make sure we're increasing good quality protein. So, protein powder's in there. Next thing we have in here is our Max Fit. Remember I said about the stress and the cortisol? What Max Fit does is it helps you regulate your stress and cortisol levels. The reason why I'm promoting this is because we are going to be in a challenge where we're going to take you out of the stress environment first, and then we're going to support you with helping your body's cortisol levels balance. It's got like ashwagandha root, it's got green tea extract, it's got a lot of healthy things to help balance those levels out, but we're going to be addressing the root of the stress and then giving you this to help this balance at the same time. That's where Max Fit comes in. And the last thing is when you're looking at healing a cell, so cell repair, this is why this is big. A lot of us become toxic. And here's how toxins work. When toxins come into your body's natural thing to do is take a fat cell and encapsulate the toxin so that that toxin doesn't go and make you septic, right? That's a protective mechanism. The problem is we keep putting so much toxins in, your body keeps shoving fat cells all over it, and the reason why you become weight loss resistant is your body can't get rid of the fat cell because it's toxic. So how do we help you overcome that? Cell repair. What this does is it helps you heal the cell to get rid of the toxin efficiently and healthy so your body doesn't release it out into the rest of your body. Does that make sense? This is why cell repair is good to help you detox. There's your bundle. That bundle, by the way, like I said, is 20% off today. So make sure at the break you go and sprint, duck people out of the way, and grab your bundle before you get your scan. Okay, next we have 40 days of movement. We're going to commit to moving your body for 40 days. I'm not saying that you have to exercise for 40 days in a row. I'm saying moving your body. So depending on where you are, if you're somebody who says, I haven't moved in the last 3 months, then hey, you're going to commit to 3 days of exercise and 4 days of active recovery. Meaning you're going to go for a walk, you're going to do some light yoga stretching, you're going to do some mobility, you're going to actively be intentional and move your body for 40 days. If you're someone who's already active, great. 5 days of intentional exercise, and you're going to move your body, and you're going to have 2 days of active recovery. But there's an intentional movement every day for 40 days, and we're going to help guide you on how to do some of these things along the way. So if you have a hard time with what do I do to exercise, I got something for you for that. Next thing is 40 days of prayer. I'm going to say prayer very specifically, and here's why I say this. Like I said earlier, when we commit to something like this, who is coming after you to stop you? Satan. So what I want you to do is I want you actively spending 20 minutes a day with the Lord in prayer to protect yourself for what's coming, okay? And here's what we, as a resource, we made a video for you in helping you encourage this, because I think when we look at this, even like I said, even me or everybody else, like you might have a hard time finding 20 minutes. Like, how do I spend 20 minutes a day in prayer? And we don't have to do it like for 20 minutes in a row here. But when you sit there and you're going to commit to 20 minutes a day in prayer, I want you pray for your kids, pray for your school, pray for your work, pray for people around you. There's, like, trust me, when you start getting into it, what you find is that you're like, oh my God, I can do this all day. Because you find that, man, you come out this way with prayer. Does that make sense? And all of a sudden you start thanking God for every little thing that you have in your life. And when you can do that, what they find is that there is a direct connection to when you are immersed in prayer, anxiety runs. You cannot be in prayer with God and have anxiety at the same time. Satan and God, oil and water, right? You cannot be in prayer and have anxiety stirring in your body. It will leave. I guarantee that. So this is important. Next one we're going to do, 40 days of adjustments or home care. So if you're a patient, 40 days in a row, you better be at my office. Just kidding. No, so it's making your adjustment schedule and then committing to your spinal rehab exercises for 40 days. Here's why. At the end, I'm going to talk about there's a direct connection between your nervous system and your metabolism. So making sure that you're prioritizing your spinal health over 40 days. If you're like, I don't even go to your office, I don't know who you are. Great. Hey, there's a table in the back. I would love for you to come and meet me in the office, and we could teach you more about this, right? But become and get involved in making sure that you're prioritizing your spine and your nervous system for 40 days. The last one, everyone's favorite. Come on. 40 days of cold. Okay. Yeah, yes, look at all the happy faces. Here's where this comes in. 40 days of cold. What we're going to do is 40 days of cold plunge or shower. If you have a swimming pool at home, that's cold enough right now, right? Jump in your pool for 3 to 5 minutes. If you do not have a pool, this is where you find a friend who has a pool, and you get in their pool for 40 days. You find someone who's in your challenge group and say, hey, let's meet up. Let's do a cold plunge together. If you have no friends and you don't know anybody with a pool, this is where the cold shower comes in, and you can do a cold shower. If you need, you can come to my house and you can cold plunge with us, right? But this is where this happens, where there's a multitude of benefits that come from this. Last year when we set this out, my wife and I committed to this, and it was just designed to be a 30-day challenge last year, and this changed our life so much. My wife and I did 100 days in a row of cold plunge. And I'm going to start off by telling you that when we first did it, I said, I don't like the cold. That's why I live in Arizona. But I said, we committed. It changed us significantly. So we did 40 days, we went to 100 in a row, and we didn't miss. If we got in bed at night and we said, oh my God, we didn't cold plunge, get out of bed. And ask my wife, we got out of bed and got in that pool at midnight, and we're like this, but we did anyway. And we thanked ourselves afterward. Now here's the thing. Go one more here. There's a couple benefits you get from cold plunging. Number one is that science actually shows that you get a thermogenesis change, meaning that there's white fat, it's the stuff we don't like on our body, and then there's brown fat. Brown fat is your metabolic fat. Brown fat is what burns white fat. We want to convert your body to have more brown fat. How do you do that? Cold exposure. Getting in cold water, it's a protective mechanism to save you, right? Here's the other cool thing. Getting in cold water obviously helps with inflammation. If you're someone with achy joints and you're always inflamed, getting in cold water will help drop inflammation down. Another big one for us was something called cognitive resiliency. Here's how this works. If all of us right now decided to go jump in the river and it's freezing cold, your initial response is going to be to tighten all your muscles and you can't breathe, right? Primal response. You're like, oh, and I can't breathe. But when you can walk into the water knowing this, and you say, I'm going to control my body, I'm going to control my breath, I'm going to keep my muscles relaxed, I'm going to be in control right now of what happens, the ability to do that in a stressed environment, that is what cognitive resiliency means. That means that when you can be in control of your emotions and your current state in that place, then now when you're in traffic and you're stressed, you can more easily relax and control, and you can be in control of your body's emotional state. When we did this, what we found is that when our kids were screaming and going left and right, and I usually want to throw them against the wall, right? When that moment would happen, I'd be like, oh, hey, I don't have to throw you. I can calm myself down. And then cognitive resiliency. So this is where this guy comes in. Okay, next. So that's what we're going to be doing for 40 days. Who's excited about that? Yes, I see you. Okay, 40 days. Now here's what you're going to get in this 40 days. So first thing you're going to get is an in-body scan. This starts today at your scanner. So at the break, if you haven't already, go get your scan. This is going to break down everything. Part of this we did this year, I recorded a video that you're going to get this weekend that's going to explain how to understand that readout. So you'll know what it means, and you know how to understand it. So today is just about getting your scan. You'll get a video sent to you of me explaining what that sheet means. And then we're going to do one in the beginning, and we're going to track it in 40 days from now. We're going to track at the end. We're going to watch that number change. And it's not about the number on the scale of the pounds, right? But it's about converting your muscle mass and your fat, and we're going to be moving these in the positive way. So that's in-body scan. Then we're going to get your nutritional resource guide. We have literally created a whole host of resources for you that you should have already gotten if you've been over there that are going to help you go through this to break down nutrition to make this thing easier because it can be complicated. And then for those of you guys who are like, hey, when I go to the grocery store, I don't know what to buy, guess what we're going to do? Shop with the docs. So I said, how can I make this as easy as humanly possible? There's a sign-up sheet over there. Either next Wednesday night or the Thursday afternoon, me and Dr. Olivia will literally take you to Sprouts and we will teach you how to shop. I will teach you exactly what to look for. I'm going to help you read the labels. We're going to help you break down everything in the grocery store. Like, I don't know how else to do it except I come to your house and cook it for you, right? We're going to do this. We're giving you as much as we can to help you feel encouraged and empowered. And I want to equip you, right, to make sure that this is easy. Okay, next we're going to get is a resource guide. So to help you with navigating the grocery store when I'm not with you, you're going to have a resource guide that'll be given to you. And then we talked about exercises. And if you're like, shoot, I don't know how to do exercises, guess what? There's a whole sheet we made of programmed exercises that either have little to very minimal equipment needed to make sure that you are set for the next 40 days of programmed exercises and stretches to keep you going all the way through. I tell you guys what, that alone is worth the value of the challenge, because that right there takes quite a bit to understand how to move my body efficiently throughout. And they're not even like we think it's an hour or 2 hours in the gym. It's not, right? It's a much simpler than that. Okay, then we're going to do coaching groups. This, I feel like, I call them coaching groups. What it should be called is accountability groups. And because when we're going through something like this, in the reality, what we need is accountability, right? In reality, when we're diving into something like this, what we need is someone to stand by you and say, hey, I'm feeling a little bit weak right now, and I need to cheat. And in that moment, you can text someone that you love and care about, and they're gonna say, hey, no, don't do that. Or you're like, hey, I need some help with this. I need some help here. And this group is gonna be walking all the way through and helping you along the way. So you're gonna get put into accountability groups that are gonna be led by either myself or the different team members in the office, and we're gonna be individually keeping you accountable and coaching you through the 40 days. Like, come on, how cool is that, right? All through this, you're gonna have access to us 24/7 through this. If you're at like 12 at night and you're like, I don't know what to snack on, and you wanna text Anne-Marie, text Anne-Marie. Just kidding. Okay, last testimony I'm gonna show you guys is this. When we did this, my wife and I, the very first year we did this couple came to us and they said, listen, our health has been down for so long. They said, we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. We have no intimacy. We have no connection. We have no energy for the kids. And we need to change. And I said, how bad do you want this to change? And they said, you tell me what to do and I will do it. And I'll tell you guys, this challenge that you're about to do, they committed to this thing for 1 year. We're doing it for 40 days as a kickstart, right? I said, and here's how I framed it to them. I'm going to frame it to you. What do you think would happen if you committed to your health for just 1 year? If you said, listen, 2024, I'm just going to make this my year, no excuses, I'm going to give it my all for 1 year, and that's what happened. Together, they lost over 100 pounds. So here's what I'm going to encourage you. Like, what we're going to be doing is not something that's going to be designed to be a 40-day start and quit. This is literally designed to radically transform your life when you apply this continuously on even after this starts. You guys with me on that? Who wants some of that? All right? Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break here. And in this next 30 minutes, this is where if you need to use the potty, use your potty. But I would run over to get your bundles if you need them. I would run to get in line to get your scans. We're going to have time to get your scans if you haven't right now. And load up on what you need. We're going to take a 30-minute break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to kick some butt. You guys ready? Okay.
It's the day for transformation. So who wants to start learning about food? It's my favorite thing. All right. Awesome. So no, I'm Dr. Alanna, for those of you guys who haven't met yet, and super excited for today. I love nutrition. It's something I'm super passionate about and love to teach people. So I hope that there's something that you guys can take away today that's really going to help transform your life when it comes to food, because this is a huge part of our health. So how many of you guys have ever felt overwhelmed when it comes to nutrition or the amount of diets you put there? Yeah, I think we've all been there. It can be a good thing or a bad thing, but we just have access to so much information that it's very easy for it to become overwhelming for us. Like, should I go on the vegan diet or the carnivore diet or keto or paleo or whatever it is. So I don't believe that there is one diet out there that's perfect for everybody. I think we're all very different and need and require different things. But I do believe that there are core foundation principles that apply to everybody when it comes to our nutrition. So my goal for today when it comes to nutrition is to make it as simple as possible for you guys. Sound good? So not necessarily easy, right? We still have to make those decisions, but to make it simple, because I think that nutrition should be something that we enjoy. Food should be something we enjoy, something that God gave us as a blessing, and not something that feels like a punishment, or that's just really no way to live our life, right? Also, it should be something that's sustainable and long-lasting, so we can do this for ourselves, for our children, for the rest of our lives. So when it comes to food, there's also a huge psychological component and a mindset that I believe we need to get right first. Whenever we decide to go on, change our diet, a lot of the times it becomes this very negative thing where we restrict calories, avoid certain foods, basically punish ourselves, right? To lose a few pounds, and then this creates, destroys our metabolism in the process, and then creates this horrible relationship with food. Versus looking at nutrition as, what are the best, most high quality, high dense foods that I can put into my body that is going to nourish my body so that I can function and thrive at my absolute best. Sounds much better, right? So when we look at nutrition, trying to switch that so that, because we were all, like Dr. Mike was saying, we were all born perfect. Our bodies know how to heal. They know how to function, but we have to give them the right fuel in order for them to do that. So when it comes to nutrition, we can look at this as a tool to help us in our life so that we have more energy, better sleep, better libido, less pain, less inflammation. Who doesn't want all those things, right? So that is my goal today for you guys. So first, I want to talk about calories, because I think that there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to this. People think simply if you eat less calories than you burn, you're going to lose weight. And that's not necessarily the case, although you do have to eat less than you burn. But I want to argue that I believe that where those calories are coming from are more important. So the quality of our food and where our food is sourced from is very important, and more important than just a number, if that makes sense. So yes, calories are important. They're energy in versus energy out. And I think counting calories initially can be very educational because it lets you know, okay, this is kind of the ballpark that I'm falling into. But I think what is more healthy is getting away from that, right? So when it comes to food, as humans, we all know that we are, emotional-based creatures, especially when it comes to food. So we are eating, when we're happy or when we're sad or when we're celebrating or when we're bored or whatever it is. It's very tied to our emotions. And so today, my goal, I want to give you guys 7 tips or hacks that you can apply to your life. So if you're taking notes, we're going to do 7 of them. And these will kind of allow you to naturally change certain habits in your life that will naturally get you to fall into your proper caloric intake or your macronutrients, right? So for those of you doing the challenge, yes, you will be tracking, especially things like your protein, because you want to make sure you're hitting that amount. But the goal is to not continue to do that long term. So these hacks will help you kind of fall into that proper intake without having to think so much about numbers. in food. So this will help with weight loss and then overall health, right? That's the goal, overall health. So first hack I want to share with you guys is, this is the number one, add healthy foods versus taking foods away. Isn't that kind of like contradictory to what you typically hear when you start any type of diet plan? It's usually like, okay, you can't eat these foods and we're going to be super restrictive. And I'm actually telling you guys, like, no, we're going to add food. How awesome is that? Yes, people are happy about that. So adding in food, like I was saying, we need to look at our diet and say, what are the most nutrient-dense foods that I can get into my body? Because if we're focusing on that, then there's no longer room for the bad stuff, right? I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but one of the great things about protein is it's super satiating to your body. So when your body is satiated and satisfied, you don't have as many of those cravings for those horrible foods or the worst offenders that you're usually going after. So we want to give ourselves, I think, innately humans have this like intrinsic need to rebel. Am I the only one? You guys? Okay, so I think we all have that to some extent. So if we tell ourselves like we can't have something, we just want it that much more. So our focus needs to be, when we give ourselves this like rigid, restrictive diet, it's only a matter of time before we rebound and can't sustain that. So long-term success, focus on the good foods. So I want to give you guys just a few examples of high nutrient, mineral dense foods. Oh, perfect. Okay, so I have a whole list on here. If you guys are taking pictures, you can take a picture of that. This isn't obviously all of them. This is just a few of the top ones that you can focus on getting into your diet. How many of you guys are a little bit surprised by the raw dairy? Okay, cool. No one. Awesome. So yeah, raw dairy, the more that I've researched this, the more I've realized like how incredible this is for our body and how it's absolutely criminal that it is illegal in a lot of states. And ridiculous if you look at the history of how that happened. But a lot of people think that they are lactose intolerant. But the actual problem is they are intolerant to pasteurized milk. So when milk is heated to a certain degree, it actually kills the enzyme lactase, which helps you break down lactose. So raw milk actually has a ton of those enzymes, and I'm going to go into it in a minute, but this is a very high nutrient, mineral dense food that helps with so many processes in our body. We have organic, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. I'm going to go into that as well. Pasture-raised eggs, bee pollen. A lot of these are animal proteins. Super high-quality, dense foods. There's other ones too. So we've got, berries and spirulina. These are just some examples of foods that we want to focus on getting into our diet every day. Okay. The second tip I want to share with you guys, and this is huge, super, super helpful. Eat protein first. So when we sit down to eat a meal, typically when we look at our plate, the protein portion is going to be our meat. So like our chicken, beef, salmon, or eggs, that's typically the protein portion. If we decide to eat the protein first, it's going to do a couple of things to modify our behavior. So protein, like I was saying, provides the most satiety. So it actually blunts our appetite the most. So if we eat, 30 to 50 grams of protein before we eat the rest of our meal, studies show this very clearly that we're going to eat less of the other things, right? And protein is the most important. So overall, it can help us eat less in general. So it leads to this behavior if we just make sure we're always eating our protein first or always pairing our protein with our food. So this helps significantly. Another thing it does is protein will actually help manage our blood glucose levels. So what happens when we don't get enough protein, or if we're not eating consistently enough, our blood sugar will go have spikes and then fall down again. So highs and lows, and it'll be imbalanced. And this actually makes us feel irritable, lethargic, and can actually increase our cravings. So if we're not getting enough protein, this is what happens. I actually was guilty of this. So we did this challenge last year, and that was the last time I had tracked my protein. And it was kind of in the beginning of my pregnancy, so I needed more protein anyways, but I was having a harder time eating meat. But I still thought, okay, I'm eating at least meat once a day, and then I was having eggs and stuff, so I thought for sure I was hitting my protein. So I decided to track it again, and I was maybe hitting half of what I should have been. So even if you're very aware of nutrition and all of that, you can kind of still fall into this. That's why I think tracking every once in a while is really good, because it's very educational. So I started putting more protein into my diet and trying to hit, once we started the challenge as a team, starting to hit my goal for protein. And it is actually challenging to hit a certain amount of protein per day, but totally doable once you figure out the right foods to put in your diet. And I noticed a huge difference with my energy. I just felt like myself again. And yeah, just felt better overall. So it really does make a big difference. I wanted to point this out too, when it comes to snacking. I've once I started making protein a priority for myself, I created this almost this rule of I never let myself have a carb unless I'm going to pair it with a protein. So even if it's a, God-made food, very healthy for you, fruit, for instance, like grapes, instead of just sitting down and eating a ton of grapes, I'll have, raw cheese or a beef stick first and then eat those grapes, or eat them together, whatever. So the rule is no naked carbs. So if you really want those carbs, pair them with a protein first, so that you can satiate yourself a little bit more. Protein is the most satiety-forming food, and then there's fats, which is second, and then carbs is the least. That's why we can actually eat a ton of carbs and never really feel full. Have you guys been there before? Right? So and then we actually crave it, so we want to eat more and more. Okay, next slide. Does quality matter? This is the third tip for you guys. And one of the most important ones, I would argue, is to prioritize the quality of your foods. Like I was saying, where is your food coming from? And we have to be really careful these days, because there are a lot of tricky advertising and marketing on food that makes us think we are eating healthy when we're actually not. So we have to be careful. But when we're prioritizing the quality of our food, I would say that this especially matters when we are talking about our animal products. So our meat, eggs, milk, butter, those kind of things. So I want to go into our meat real quick, because I think that meat over the years, red meat, has been demonized. And I kind of want to explain to you guys why this is. So those of you guys that have been to our nutrition talks or our talk last year, I'm going to do a similar thing so you can answer some of the questions I'm going to ask. So when we talk about cows and grass-fed versus grass-finished versus conventional, I want to ask you guys, what are cows designed to eat? Grass, right? Yes, they are designed to eat grass. How many stomachs do cows have? They actually have 4, yes. 4 stomachs in order to break the cellulose down in the grass, right? They're designed that way. What are conventional cows given to eat? Grains. Grains, and these are not organic, healthy, sprouted grains. These are GMO-filled, pesticide-sprayed, horrible, cheap grains. and also like soy and other things they found, like plastic in these foods. It's pretty crazy what these cows are given. But why are they given grains? Yeah, to make them fat, right? If you want to get as fat as possible, as fast as possible, eat a lot of sugar, right? Which is grains, basically carbs, because grains turn into sugar within 4 seconds after you put them in your mouth. So yes, they want the cows to get bigger, fatter, they have more meat, and that means more money, right? But when this happens, cows are not designed, this is not their normal diet, to eat grains or soy. And so it actually changes the chemical makeup of the cow and changes the fat concentration within their body. And then we go and eat that meat, and that affects us as well. So when we talk about fat concentration, have you guys heard of omega-6s and omega-3s? Yeah, so omega-6s are inflammatory. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. We need a balance of both, but ideally we need to focus on our omega-3s and decreasing our omega-6s. But a healthy ideal ratio for omega-6 to omega-3 is 1-to-1 or 4-to-1. That's what we should see. That's the ideal ratio. So what do you guys think the ratio is in a grass-fed cow, the way that it was designed to be? 1-to-1 or 4-to-1. It literally falls right within the range of what it should be. What do you guys think the omega ratio is in conventional beef? You can throw some numbers. Who said it? 40, yeah. So anywhere from 20-to-1 to 50-to-1, depending on what research you're reading. So no amount of omega-3 supplement is going to be able to change that, right? So we're putting that conventional meat in our body, creates way too much inflammation. And you guys know what inflammation leads to in our bodies? Disease, right? Multiple different things. So if we're that low in omega-3s and that high in omega-6s, we're going to have brain problems, hormone problems. There's a whole host of problems related to conventional meat, and that's why red meat has gotten such a bad rap over the last few years. Because if you are eating conventional meat, then yes, your chances of all of these diseases increase significantly and can lead to, heart attacks and strokes and cancers and all that. But if we're eating grass-fed meat, there's a chemical in grass-fed meat called conjugated linoleic acid that actually helps prevent cancer. So you guys look at this, like, isn't it amazing that when we treat animals the way that God intended us to treat them and raise them that way, then they're actually good for us. And when we don't and we treat them differently, then they're horrible for us. So like Dr. Mike was saying, I know that there is a price difference when it comes to this, but we have to be willing to invest in our health and our children's health and generations to come because it's worth it. Like, we can't be putting conventional meat in our body. It's horrible for us and causing a ton of issues. So make sure when you buy meat, I honestly feel like this is like the number one thing, if you haven't yet changed this, that you're getting grass-fed, grass-finished meat. And I'll explain that in a second. But like I was saying before, there's a lot of things they can do with marketing that are very tricky nowadays, so you have to be careful. They're now labeling food grass-fed. So you look at it and you're like, cool, grass-fed. Dr. Alanna said this was good. I'm going to buy this. You need to make sure you know the farm or that it says grass-finished on it, because now they can label meat that's only been fed 51% of its life, it's been fed grass, but then the rest of its life, it's been given corn, and they can still label it grass-fed. So you need to be careful when it comes to that. Know the farms that you're going to, or you can ask us to and use this as a resource, but it will usually say nowadays that it's grass-finished because that's a thing. Okay, you guys got the point on that? Okay, next one we're going to talk about is eggs. So Dr. Mike mentioned this earlier, but organic pasture-raised eggs. The chickens are free-ranging and roaming around, eating bugs and worms in like their natural diet. So when it comes to the egg or the chicken, that's what we want to be purchasing. I also want to talk about next fish as well. So any animal should be raised the way it was intended to be, especially when it comes to fish. You guys can sort of see the color difference. The bottom one here is a wild caught fish. The top one is farm raised fish. It's much more like nutrient dense in the way that it was meant to be. If we're giving these fish corn and soy, that's not their normal diet. It's going to make them bigger and change the fat content as well. And I haven't even mentioned like the amount of hormones that are injected into these animals and antibiotics. Like those things, if they're given to the animal and we eat that meat, we're also taking that on as well. Okay, so next. Cool. So I want to talk about processed foods for a minute. So this is tip number 4. Avoid heavily processed foods. So you guys have probably heard me or Dr. Mike say this before, but if we could simplify nutrition into one sentence, it would be eat more God-made food and less man-made food, right? If we could do that, I think it would help every single person, but it would solve a lot of problems, right? If we just focus more on God-made food, less man-made food. It's as simple as that. So when I'm talking about heavily processed food, these are things that are in boxes or wrappers. They typically have a very long shelf life. They have an ingredients list that's ridiculously long, or they have ingredients that you can't pronounce or read, right? Like one thing too we can start incorporating is like reading ingredients if you're not already. If you can't pronounce something or you don't know what it is, put it back. Like you shouldn't be putting that in your body, right? And so studies have shown why these heavily processed foods are like such a big deal and so bad for us. And what they show is that these frankenfoods are actually engineered to make us eat more. So they've done studies over this, but they show that people will eat 600 more calories a day if they're eating processed foods. That's not because the processed foods necessarily are have higher calories, but it's because they literally, when you eat those, they make you want to eat more. They increase your cravings. And these are not real foods. Our bodies just don't know how to break them down. They, again, cause inflammation and lead to disease. So less processed food. The food in its whole form is always more beneficial for us than its processed form. So I'll use an example of potato chips, because who doesn't like potato chips, right? How many of you guys can eat a whole bag? I'm just kidding. You don't have to raise your hands. You know who you are. But yeah, you could like sit down if you were distracted or something and like eat a whole bag of potato chips probably. But how many potatoes do you guys think it takes to make like a family-sized bag of potato chips? Yeah, it's like 5 to 6, like the large, like rustic potatoes, right? 5 to 6 of those. We could eat a whole bag of potato chips. I don't think that there's many people that could sit down and eat like 5 to 6 large potatoes, right? So the whole food is always going to be more satiating to your body than the processed food. All right. So this actually leads me to my next point. Tip number 5, eat without distraction. This is huge. I think if you guys are kind of overwhelmed by maybe 7 tips and you're like, oh, I can't implement all of that or whatever, and you just want to take home 2, like eat whole foods and then eat without being distracted. I think that's actually a lot harder or easier said than done. So studies have clearly showed that when we do this, we eat 10 to 15% less calories per day when we just sit down and like focus on our food, how we're chewing, being grateful for the food that's present in front of us, blessing our food, right? Like asking God to nourish it to our bodies. So important instead of just like sitting mindlessly in front of a TV. Because like when you do eat that whole bag of potato chips, you guys know who you are? It's usually when you're in front of the TV, right? Like, I think there's a whole host of other problems if you can sit by yourself in silence and do that. Does that make sense? So, we got another thing to work on. But, so whenever, if you need to even make like rules about this or something, like we don't eat on the couch or whatever it is, you know, so that you're able to really focus, sit down with your family and like have a good time while you eat, instead of just mindlessly eating in front of the TV or your phone or like while you're working or whatever it is. Really just focusing on your food helps you eat slower, and then it helps you not eat as much. So this is huge, like very, very helpful for people to avoid that. Okay, let's talk about fat. I'm going to go into that next. Awesome. So fat is absolutely essential. Okay, there's good fats and there's bad fats, but good fats are absolutely essential for us. And for too long, fat has been demonized and blamed as the culprit for like why America is getting fatter and fatter. It's not fat that makes you fat. It's your inability to burn fat that makes you fat. So every single cell in our entire body is surrounded by 2 layers of fat. Every neuron in our body has a sheath of fat that protects it and surrounds it. Our brain is 80% fat. Like we absolutely need fat to thrive and sustain our bodies and to be healthy overall. So do you guys remember probably like 20, 30 years ago, there's a whole fad of like low fat, no fat. Do you guys think that helped our health crisis in America? No, it actually made it worse because everyone was eating, margarine instead of real butter, which if you have margarine, just throw it out today. Do not eat that stuff. It's plastic. Don't give it to your neighbor either. Like, throw it away. So 20 to 30 years ago, and now we're actually seeing a correlation between that low fat fad and Alzheimer's and dementia, because it's affecting people's brains long term. That healthy fat we need for our hormones and actually to help lubricate our arteries, which sounds crazy to some people. It might be surprising, but plaques in our arteries are not from good fat. They're from a mix of bad fats and sugars, actually, combined with like inflammatory oils and stuff, which we'll go over. So we need fat. It just depends, again, this is a common theme, of the source of where the fat is coming from. Healthy fats are like avocado and bone marrow and wild-caught fish and egg yolk, raw milk, I'll go over that in a minute, and butter as well. We have to watch out for inflammatory oils. Where are inflammatory oils mostly found? Just talked about it. In processed foods, thank you. Yes, processed foods. So just avoiding processed foods will help you avoid a lot of these inflammatory oils. So once you start like looking at this, you're going to walk through the store and you're going to see, healthy organic chips or whatever it is, or you see like a snack that you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to go look and see at the ingredients. It's so frustrating because a lot of the times there'll be like canola oil in there and you're like, oh, everything else is good except for that oil. Like, put it back. You'll find something eventually. And whenever we find something with, good oil in it, like avocado oil or something, we like celebrate in the grocery store. Cool, we have found another healthy snack. So yeah, it makes a huge difference. The canola or the oils you want to avoid are like canola oils, hydrogenated oil. So what does hydrogenated mean? It means that it's been heated up. So how do you take a good oil and turn it bad? You heat it. You change the chemical makeup of that oil. Your body no longer knows how to break it down, and it becomes super toxic to you. These are literally in everything. It's so frustrating, but like mayonnaise, sauces, salad dressings, a lot of packaged food, like I was saying. So we want to look for the good oils, like the avocado oils, coconut oils, olive oils, butter, ghee, tallow, those types of fats to help nourish our bodies. All right, so we're going to get into milk next, and alternative milk, because this is a big deal nowadays. Not that alternative milks are a problem, but again, we have to watch out for the additives in them. So what is in the ingredients? Again, there's a lot of inflammatory oils that they use, or emulsifiers to help thicken the milk, depending what it's made out of. And then we also need to pay attention to like the amount of nuts and seeds that we're consuming. So not that nuts and seeds are bad for us, but we have to think about like the bioavailability of nuts and seeds and what that used to look like before we had a ton of processed foods or big machines that would help us get and collect those nuts and seeds. So it would take a long time to just get one handful of almonds per, let's say. Okay. And what I realized actually last year when I did this was that because we were avoiding, gluten and those kind of things, we were eating a lot of almonds in like almost everything. We had almond crackers, almond tortillas, we were drinking almond milk like all day long. And what I realized was like, that's way too much almonds compared to like what used to be available to us, like just a handful of almonds. So it's not necessarily that the almond's bad, it's like the amount that we have in our food nowadays because of all the processing. So that's when we started switching more towards like raw dairy, which I will go over. So again, be careful. If you're going to drink alternative milks, you have to read what's in them and make sure that there's not like a crazy amount of sugar. That's another thing. Or processed sugar that's added, or bad oils. Okay. So I want to go over some benefits of raw milk like I was talking about. So we'll go to the next slide. One study showed, this is an example, and if you guys start researching raw milk, it's crazy how extensive the literature is on this, and it's very dense, and it's amazing some of the benefits that they're finding from raw dairy. So this study, it's a little bit difficult for you guys to read, but this is an example. And this study shows that there is a significant body of epidemiological evidence that consuming raw milk in childhood and adulthood in farm, but also non-farm populations. So that's most of us. Most of us don't live on a farm, right? Can be one of the most effective protective factors against allergies and asthma. That's pretty amazing. It's we see a ton of kids in our office, and when kids first start coming in, it's crazy. Over the years, it's gotten so much more common for kids to have allergies and asthma, right? Like I remember being in school, and there was like the one kid that was like allergic to peanuts or something, right? Maybe. And nowadays it's like almost every kid has some type of allergy or eczema, or which is like a form of an allergy. So it's become so much more prevalent. The amazing part of raw milk is it has over 700 species, and this sounds kind of crazy, 700 species of bacteria in it. But this is good bacteria, like probiotics. Those are bacteria for our gut. This is good bacteria for our gut, and it can actually help, stabilize the gut. And 70% of our immune systems are actually in our gut. Okay? So that's probably why it's such an important role in like allergies and asthma and helping kids with that, especially. I grew up on like pasteurized milk, and I wish that my mom would have known this, right? We have switched to raw dairy, and I remember thinking initially like, oh, isn't that kind of dangerous? Like, you can get sick from that or whatever. But again, knowing the source. So if your raw milk is coming from a grass-finished cow that's raised properly, then you don't have to be worried about that. You don't have to be worried about the added, or any of the diseases. So obviously, you look at that and you say, like, does the risk outweigh the benefit? In my mind, absolutely. Like, we drink raw milk, we give it to our kids, and we get it from a good source. The amazing part, too, is in Arizona, it's actually legal here. You can get it at Sprouts. So it's not hard to come by. There's also, and we can help you with this too if you have questions, but other small local farms that you can get it from as well, that sell like more variety. So there'll be like raw butter or raw cream and stuff that you can also purchase. So it's pretty easy to access here in Arizona, which is wonderful. So get raw milk. Next slide. We're going to go over carbs. Cool. Who doesn't love carbs? So there are such things as healthy carbs. When we look at bread specifically, we want to get either fermented bread or sprouted, because these are live cultures that we're actually eating and consuming that have a benefit for our gut health. So an example of that is sourdough bread. How many of you guys make your own sourdough? Anyone in here? Yeah. Awesome. I just started doing that last year, and it's been amazing and just so fun. And not as hard as you think. If you haven't done it yet, I can give you some of my starter if you'd like. But it's really not hard. And it's really fun, tastes great, good for you, right? So when it comes to carbs, especially if like weight loss is a goal, it's not that you can't necessarily have carbs. You just want to like everything in moderation, right? And then what do we want to pair with the carb? Protein. Thank you. Yes, protein. So we always want to pair it with a protein or eat a protein first and then eat the carb. So what the problem is with a lot of like processed breads, even if it's like looks healthy, right? Like whole grain. We had in our office actually, the Dave's bread is like an example. We actually used to eat that. I thought it was healthy. But the problem with processed grains is they actually contain phytic acid, which is an anti-nutrient. So what that means is it binds with essential minerals in our bodies like calcium, magnesium, copper, iron. These are essential minerals that our body needs to function. It actually binds with those and then blocks the absorption of them. So even if we are eating like a really good diet, but then we're incorporating these phytic acids through our whole grains that we think are healthy, we're actually not able to absorb and assimilate the good nutrients that we're eating. So being aware of that when you eat a lot of whole grains in your diet, this can lead to mineral deficiencies. And when you have mineral deficiencies, it can lead to bone loss and be really harmful for like our digestive health or thyroid health overall. So being very aware of that. All right, you guys ready for the sixth tip here? Stay hydrated. It sounds so simple. Stay hydrated. This is a super important part for weight loss, detoxification, and then just keeping our body working and functioning the way that it was designed to. Like, we need water. Most of us are dehydrated. How many of you guys start off your day, like the first thing you do is go get your coffee? Don't lie, I've done it before too. I love coffee. I totally get it. Like, I have to actively remind myself, like, nope, I need to drink some water first, hydrate myself, and then have the coffee. Ideally, you should eat first and then have your coffee. But hydrate yourself. Starting your day off with water is going to help you stay hydrated, and then kind of put that spark in your mind, and you'll continue to drink more water throughout the rest of the day. So yes, I totally get it. So we when we're dehydrated, our cells get dehydrated. And we don't end up making enough urine to get all of the toxins out of our body, and then they stay in our body, and that's really not good for us and can make us sick over time. So we need to stay hydrated for proper health and for weight loss, especially, or fat loss. And hydration is not just about consuming water. It's, again, about consuming the right minerals and electrolytes. So I saw some of you guys got the element packets that we have. This is the best option that I have seen for hydrating yourself. So these come with sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which are 3 super important minerals for our bodies to function and heal properly. When we don't have these minerals or electrolytes and we're just consuming water, the water doesn't fully get into our cells and actually hydrate us. We just kind of flush everything out. So we need to be making sure that we're having minerals as well. Also, kind of the gold standard for filtered water. Like, we all understand that we need to have clean filtered water, right? That's another way to avoid toxins in your body. But reverse osmosis is like the gold standard for a lot of that. And it's great, but the downside is it actually strips the minerals out of the water as well. So we want to make sure that we are replacing those minerals. So a surprising one, and some people have told me this, like, oh, Element has 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Like, how is that good for you? Sodium is another thing that has been demonized over the years. And again, it comes to like the source of the sodium. So this is not table salt, right? That's been created in a lab. That's not actually sodium. This is good, healthy salt from the earth. And we actually need it. So we should be consuming 4 to 6 grams of sodium every day. That's like what recent studies have been showing. So that's 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams of sodium per day, not just in our water, but our food as well. So we should be consuming that. Like, if you look at the American Heart Association or like the FDA, they're only saying that we should have like 1.5 grams, which is not enough for our bodies to function properly. One of the significant things about this is when we have low sodium, we notice things like what? Like headaches, muscle cramps, and low energy. So we've literally had people, like patients that have just started taking Element and like their headaches go away because they literally were like just dehydrated. When your body is low in sodium, it actually signals to your kidneys to hold on to sodium. Okay, so that's part of your kidneys' jobs, is they let certain minerals out and then hold on to other minerals if we don't have enough, depending on like your hydration status or your mineral status. And so when our bodies signal to our kidneys to hold on to sodium, it triggers the renin-angiotensin system. Don't gloss over. You guys stay with me, okay? The renin-angiotensin, both of those two things, they increase our blood pressure. Okay, so blood pressure, high blood pressure can actually be an issue of not having enough sodium, not having too, instead of having too much salt. So a lot of times that's what doctors will recommend, like, oh, you need to lower your sodium if you have high blood pressure. There could potentially be some other issues going on, but most of the time people need more sodium. We're not getting enough. So drink your Element packets. I do like 1 a day typically, and I think that's good for majority of people. If you're super active, sweating a lot, moving a lot throughout the day, like 2 is probably better for you. I think my husband does 2 a day. So yeah, soup makes a huge difference for that as well. Okay, number 7, last tip. Here we go. You guys ready? I think this is actually one of the most important ones, and this is actually necessary if we want to see like lifelong, long-lasting results. So self-care versus self-hate. I think a lot of people, when they start a challenge or they start a diet or they want to start something new, like a workout routine or something like that, they're doing it because they want to change something about themselves, right? There's something that they don't like about themselves, it's their belly or whatever it is that they want to change. So it's something they hate about themselves that they want to change. And although this can be very motivating in the short term and initially, nobody wants to hate themselves forever, right? It doesn't feel good, and it's not going to last or be sustainable for you. So our goal is to shift our mindset from this self-hate model of like, no, I'm fat, I can't eat that, or I have to eat this much less because I'm trying to lose weight or I'm trying to change this about myself, to more of like, I want to be healthy and I deserve to be healthy, right? And I want to take care of myself, because who doesn't like being taken care of, right? Like, we need to change this for for the better. I deserve to be healthy. I want to take care of this temple that God has blessed me with, right? Our bodies are amazing. You guys, we need to get back to believing that again and trusting in them and doing this, yes, for ourselves, and then, like Dr. Mike said, for future generations as well. So when you approach your health that way, it's more of like a pro-health mindset rather than like an anti-fat mindset, if that makes sense, right? And again, I think that this is necessary. I think that you have to arrive at the point sometime in your life in order to be successful for long term. Reframing our mindset to, why we eat healthy. Figuring out your big why, like you guys wrote down earlier, and sticking with that. And that's the reason why you get up out of bed early and you work out, or you make that food decision that might be a little bit challenging or difficult sometimes, when you're around other people that are wanting you to eat the pizza or whatever it is. So, I train because it makes me better. It makes me a better wife or husband or spouse, or it makes me a better employer or boss. It makes me a better parent, right? Like, what is it that is going to drive you to start looking at this differently? So I talked a little bit about toxins that are found in our food supply. I want to address a few toxins that are found more in our environment and around us. So a really good way to start, this is one of the essentials toxins I believe that people ignore, because it's like the easiest to, because it's kind of very overwhelming if you start getting into toxins and like all the things that we're exposed to on a regular basis. But it actually can be like the most simple thing to just switch products, right? Products that we're using, we're going to swap it out for this product. And it makes a huge difference on our overall health and on our life. Yes, there are toxins that we cannot avoid, that are out of our control, just like going outside, the air we breathe, right? But there are a lot that we can control, and that like we continue to make changes in our house all the time. But a good place to start is just thinking about all of the products that we use on a regular basis for us and our children and our family. So like, you just look in like your shower, so your soaps, your shampoos, conditioner, your face wash, like what are you putting on your body, your lotions, the soaps that you're washing your dishes with, your clothes with, your floors with, like what are we being exposed to on a regular basis that we can swap out for a better, healthier option. And nowadays it's actually very easy. Like there are so many non-toxic options that we can turn to. So I want to give you guys a resource today. We literally do entire seminars just on toxins and like toxic swaps. But to make it a little bit easier for you guys, EWG.org, Environmental Working Group, they do a lot of stuff with food toxins as well. But if you have like a question on what's a good toothpaste to switch to or a good deodorant to switch to, you can go on that website as a resource, and they list like their top 10 examples of what you could purchase. You can also use us as a resource as well. We've been doing this for a long time and know like what things to watch out for. But overall, yeah, when it comes to your toxins, it's easy swaps that you can make, and it makes a drastic difference on your health overall. So Dr. Mike's going to come up and talk about how toxins can affect us as well.
There's a baby coming out another month. All right, real quick, everybody stand up real fast. Everybody up to your feet real quick. Up. Oh, stretch it out. Reach up to the sky real fast. Oh, and back down. Okay, just to get you awake. We're going to finish this out rapid fire speed. So get ready, buckle up, bringing it home here. So obesogens, these are chemicals that make you hold on to fat and make us obese. Chemicals that make us obese. I want you to write this down in your notes. April 3rd, we are doing a full seminar in the office on toxins and how to detox. where to identify all these toxins, and what do we do to be mindful about these, and how do we help ourselves out, because this is a very large topic. So we're going to do a Spring into Health, a Spring Clean seminar, April 3rd. So I'm not going to go too deep because we're going to go way deep on April 3rd, and I'm going to go into more on how this affects us. All right, we're going to get into some fitness. So increased muscle equals increased fat burn. This is what we talked about earlier. It's been funny. They've actually said that if they could bottle up all the benefits that fitness gives you or exercise gives you, you could put Big Pharma out of business. And I think we underestimate how much exercise does for us. And if we think about it, I mean, just to name a couple things here, we could do a whole nother 3-hour seminar just on exercise and what it does for you. But it obviously changes body composition, which changes your metabolic health. It stimulates endorphins. It makes you feel better. Emotional regulation, exercise. You can't exercise and then feel depressed afterward. Like, you feel good after you exercise, right? Like, exercising stimulates endorphins, and it helps reduce anxiety, depression. Exercise helps with gut dysfunction. A lot of times we have something where our actual bowels don't move because we sit all day at work, and then we go home and we sit on the couch again, and we sit so much that there's something where the food just doesn't move. So when you exercise, it increases the peristalsis of your gut and actually helps food move throughout. So it increases gut function, improves cognitive function, reverses chronic disease, all that stuff I talked about in the beginning, heart disease, diabetes, all these things, right? Like, what do we always say? Hey, if you want to fix this naturally, you eat better and you exercise, right? Like, we know that this is what it does, so now we've got to put it into play. So 2 types of exercise that we talk about is your HIIT training, which is your high-intensity interval workouts, or strength training. 2 different types. They're going to do different things. So here's what I would say. Everyone asks a lot of times, like, what have I adopted? And I've done everything over the years. Like, you name it, and I've done it. And one of the things I found is that a good balance for overall health would be a balance of high-intensity interval workouts versus strength training, right? Like, putting the high-intensity interval stuff is going to help you with short-term duration, spike your metabolism real fast. So there's something with HIIT training where they call this the afterburn effect. Have you guys heard about this? The afterburn is basically where when you do a HIIT training workout, your metabolism rises and spikes for 24 to 48 hours. Not bad. A 12 to 15-minute workout that gives you a 24 to 48-hour benefit. I want that, right? The other thing is that when you're doing a HIIT workout, a lot of the stuff you guys have, if you're doing the challenge and you have your exercise sheet, there's a lot of the exercises on there where a HIIT workout, if you've never heard of this, basically it's like an on and off, like some form of, you're going to go really hard working out for like a 30-second period or something like that, and then you're going to rest for 30 seconds. And then you go really hard for 30 seconds, and you're going to rest for 30 seconds. And you're doing this back and forth, and you're spiking your heart rate and dropping it and doing all this, and it completely shoves your metabolism into this crazy mode where in 15 minutes you can get the best workout of your life. And we think that we have to spend hours and hours in a gym, and you don't. I mean, you can if you want to, but you don't have to. Now, strength training is a whole other ballgame. This is where we talked about in the beginning, where when you strength train and you actually you're adding more lean muscle mass onto your body, there's tons of benefits here. I've actually done studies where they've seen that when you strength train and you put heavy loads onto your body, it's the most natural, fastest way to eliminate osteoporosis. Like, as you get older and you're worried of like your bones turning brittle, what's the solution? Doctors say, oh, no, don't put weight on you because your bones are brittle. Go do pool workouts. I'm like, that's going to speed that up. Your bones are brittle because you haven't put any strain on you. And that's why, right? Like, if you don't need it, it's not going to have it. So the best solution is to start strength training, and you're going to watch your bones will start to become stronger as a result. Now, if you want to find out what the best outfit is to strength train, if you're not deadlifting in a Mickey Mouse onesie, you're doing it wrong. So this is my 4-year-old, and the reason I show you guys this, and there's a piece of me that gets really emotional when I look at this picture, and the reason why is, like I said, I didn't grow up having memories with my dad doing anything health-related, and I'm going to say that when it comes to health and fitness and this process that we're going to embark on, it doesn't have to be something, and I think it shouldn't be something that we do secluded by yourself. I think this is where you bring your family into this. Like, since he's been born, he's been around me in the gym working out. That's all he knows. Like, he wakes up and all he knows is we get up, we read the Bible with Daddy, and then we go outside and we do a workout, and then we come back in and have a smoothie, and like, this is just what we do. Like, he doesn't know that things are different. So when I go out to work out, he just wants to be with me. So I bought this little plastic weight set when I have pictures of him at 1 year old with this plastic weight set, just wanting to be with Daddy and doing what Daddy did. Does that make sense? And then now that he's 4, I was like, well, let's put some real weight on that bar and see what he can do. So now we're just starting to like get him in. I just want him to enjoy it. I want him to love it. And I think that this is what's so cool is that this should be something that we do, and it's not something that has to be like put on our kids, but they want to do it because they want to do it as a unit. Does that make sense? So this 40 days, grab people around you, grab your family, and do this together where this becomes exciting. And fitness shouldn't be like, when I see this again, the fitness for me is not about having big muscles and all the things. What it's about is I want to be able to get on the floor with that kid and wrestle around with him and chase him around the house. And like when I get home at night, I put my daughter on my neck and I chase him around the kitchen. And like, I want to be fit enough to do that. That's what's important to me. So when you look at like, how can I be functionally fit enough to do life well with those around me that I love and not have to say, hey, I'm not gonna go on the walk because I can't. Like, we want to eliminate that out of your vocabulary. Amen on that? Okay. I have a video that we're going to lead into here. We're going to finish here with this chiropractic section. And I think when you hear chiropractic, a lot of times we think, like, why would I need to go to a chiropractor? If you're a guest, right? Like, why would people go to chiropractors if you don't have back pain or if you don't have neck pain? You're like, that's what it's been marketed as, right? Can I agree? I'm going to share a story, and I want to show you guys how chiropractic can drastically change someone's life if you just be vulnerable and you step into faith and you let it. So play this.
I was walking into work and my feet slipped, and I did one of these slippy slidey, and you hope nobody sees you. My right foot hit the door, my face almost hit the door, and I remember laughing, thinking, oh my God, I don't want to break my nose. Don't knock out your teeth. Didn't realize I was hurt. My office was upstairs, walked up the staircase, sat down at the desk. When I sat down, I couldn't breathe. It literally took my breath away. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. I texted my fiance and said, I think I really hurt myself. They immediately took me to the chiropractor. Chiropractor gave me an adjustment, didn't do x-rays first, didn't kind of asked. I had seen him for years, so he was kind of familiar with my back and how it worked. Ended up getting chiropractic treatment, was referred to an orthopedic surgeon. Orthopedic surgeon sent me for MRIs. I went for physical therapy. I had nerve stimulation tests. I had all kinds of tests. Everybody just wanted to push drugs, more medication. So the medication they put me on, I was supposed to take 3 times a day, and I would take it 1 time a day at night, and it would knock me out for at least 12 hours. So had I taken it like I was supposed to, I would have slept my entire days away. The pain was so bad though, I used to be nervous. Did I want to get in the car? If I got in the car, could I get out of the car? What if I'm alone? Am I going to get stuck? So I literally spent a lot of time home. The pain was bad enough that I was bedridden. My pain started getting worse. I wasn't getting relief. The orthopedic surgeon said he could do nothing for me. My employer terminated my employment March 3rd. So I was on workers' compensation, getting half of my pay, but my bills didn't change. When I came out here, I've seen several doctors. I've gone to pain clinics. I've had injections, more pills, no relief. Nobody found the root cause. One night I was surfing through Facebook, saw Dr. Mike's video, and I said, well, you know, that looks really interesting. It spoke to me. So I got online, started typing in my info, set an appointment, and I went, had my x-rays done, had the adjustment. When we went over the x-ray, Dr. Mike looked me dead in the face and said, I can help you. When so many told me there's nothing we can do. And he has truly stood by that. After the first adjustment, I can't tell you the relief that I have had. There have been times where the pain or just the lack of sensation in my leg has caused me to fall or lose my balance. I haven't done any of that. I've realized now that when I get up off the couch or out of bed, I'm not doing the ugh noise. You know, like it's an effort to get up. I'm getting up easily, freely. I'm not scared to get in the car or get out of the car. And I feel like I truly had my life back. And he genuinely, and the staff there all genuinely care about me. And they found the root cause. He looked at my x-rays, they looked at my nerve pain, and everything showed exactly why I'm feeling my feelings. And it was validation that I'm not crazy, it's not in my head. And I've gotten movement back. The old Lisa's back. My sense of excitement for life is back. It's amazing. I can't even describe it. I wouldn't hesitate. I tell everybody, I sing Dr. Mike's praises to everybody that I know that has had the same issue where everybody has said, we can't help you. There is help. There's hope. And I'm living it.
I told myself I wasn't going to cry when I watched that. Yeah. So if you guys don't know, Lisa's up here in the front. So give a big round for Lisa. You know, I look out, and I'm going to be very vulnerable and tell you guys, like, a lot of you guys, all of you guys who are our patients in our clinic, you know, I look out at you guys, and when I see you, like, I had that same visit with you initially at one point, right, where we sat down and we had a very similar conversation. And there is a very similar space where the medical community, unfortunately, speaks death and they strip hope away. And there's not very many doctors right now that are speaking life into people and are preaching life into people. And, you know, I think one of the things that if I could say, and I just want you guys to know, what you heard in that video, I don't take credit for this. I'm God's vessel. My staff, all of us, like, we're here just to serve as we're asked to serve. And when you get back to the normal, holistic state of how we were called to live and function, that's just what normal function should be. Does that make sense? But we've had that stripped away from us for so long. So, like, here's what I'm going to encourage you guys as we go into this chiropractic thing. Like, we call this the infinite game, and why I call this the infinite game. There's some of you guys who've been in this room who are patients of mine who've been here for a handful of months, and you've seen some changes, right? And there's some of you guys who've been here literally since the day that I opened my office. Like, Allie is my first patient when I opened the door 5 years ago. So, like, the idea is that when you look at this thing, there are things in health that are finite. There are things in our life that are finite. Like, a football game is finite. There's a start to my game, and there's an end to the game. Does that make sense? But when we start to look at certain things in our life that are infinite, there is a start and there is no end to this. And your health has to be played as an infinite game. If you're playing health from a finite perspective, it becomes frustrating and we lose. And we have to understand that the pursuit of health will forever be going. So I think that we look at chiropractic care, and I'm going to tell you guys, like, I think that this is one of those things that is a forever thing. Like, I don't think this should ever stop. And I ask people all the time, like, everything you heard my wife talk about with nutrition, it's like, well, when should you stop eating good food? What's the answer? When should you stop exercising? When should you stop pursuing relationships in your life? When should you stop taking care of your spine and your nervous system? Do you guys with me like that? Like, there are things that are just important for this to be an ongoing thing forever, and we fall back in love of the pursuit of health. This is why it's a forever ongoing thing. There's not like, hey, cool, I've reached this pain-free place, so I get to stop now. Or, hey, cool, I've lost the 30 pounds, so I get to stop now. Do you guys see how that works? It's a pursuit where we go on, so it's an infinite game we play. So go on more. So this is where we're going to dive into this bad boy. So when we ask ourselves, like, what? Let's be real. If you're not a patient here, right, and you're thinking, this guy is freaking nuts. I'm listening to you yell all morning. Like, why would I come and see you in the office? Here's how this works. In the body, like, we were designed and built with a nervous system that runs every system in your body. We have all these systems, and the problem with our culture right now is that we have this entire side over here that we get medicated for. When you have a stomach issue, when you have a thyroid issue, when you have a blood pressure issue, whatever the issue is here, you go to your doctor and they give you a pill to cover up the symptom here. But the reality is this is all organized by something greater. There is a nervous system over here between your brain, spinal cord, and nerves that regulate this. Like, think about it. There is a nerve that comes out from your spine and controls your thyroid. If you cut the nerve to the thyroid, what happens to the thyroid? Live or die? Die, right? It's not like hard science. It's just like it is what it is. Same thing going to your gut, same thing to your heart. Like, you have to have clear neurological communication for things to work in your body. If you're not losing weight and your gut's dysfunctional, there is a nerve that talks to your gut and tells it how to break things down. And if the nerve in your lower back is being affected and your body can't communicate life to your gut, does it make sense then that yes, we should do nutrition and yes, we should work out and all these things, but does it make sense that if you leave that pinched, this is never going to go away? Can you see that? So the problem is that we've never been understood, and we've never been taught this system that, hey, this thing actually matters. Like, I remember with my son, they're like, hey, when he gets his first tooth, you brush that tooth morning and night. All of us have abided by that, right? Like, you guys all brush your teeth morning and night. No hands are up. I'm concerned. So when we look at this, your spine is like, if you teeth rot out because you don't take care of them, guess what? You can go get new teeth. You get dentures, right? You get new teeth. You don't want to do that, but I'm saying you can. Once your spine rots out of your back, you don't get a new spine. Once this thing gets arthritic and breaks down, you guys, we don't get a replacement. God gave you one, and he said, take care of this. This is the foundation that holds you together. This is the conduit which everything communicates. And this is why you see people, like if you're a guest, somebody brought you. Does that make sense? Somebody who comes to my office brought you. And they obviously see value in why they're here. Otherwise, they wouldn't have told you to come here. So there's value in this whole concept here. And watching this video, what I want you guys to understand with Lisa's story and everybody else that's here is that there's a difference when you go to a chiropractor or a place that is rooted in something more foundational and that's going to look at you deeper than just another number going through a process. And I'm going to speak, this isn't me, I am so very blessed to have the team that I do, that when you come in, you are going to be loved on and prayed over and supported more than anywhere else. I'm confident in that. And I mean, they are just amazing. And when you look at this, like, this is where you want to go, to somewhere that's going to help support you in your health journey that understands and walks in the same concept, right? So when this system gets out of whack, there's this word called subluxation. It's a really weird word, but I should have made it more simple. But this word basically means that when your spine gets out of alignment and it pinches those nerves, it blocks the signal that's supposed to talk to this part of your body. So when you look at it, you shouldn't be getting adjusted based off of, oh, I have an ache in my neck, so I'm going to go get adjusted. It's like, well, no. How many of you patients have laid down on the table and you thought it all felt fine, and then once I started poking around, you're like, oh my God, where'd that come from, right? The idea is that our job is to identify where that is and correct that, so ultimately your body begins to heal and function the way that God intended it. Like, your body already knows how to heal. We don't have to teach it to heal. Like, if you cut your hand, that cut heals. Like, you don't have to teach it to do that. But when there's subluxation, when there's an interference in the body and communication doesn't flow, this is when this gets disrupted. And this is when your body stops. So we need to figure out, hey, anywhere along this pathway, where is it out of alignment? And how do we do that? Oh, hold on, before I get to that. What I got to talk about, I promised you I would connect the dots on me doing this to metabolism, right? I promised that. So pull up the study. This is cool. So who's here heard of the vagus nerve? Not Las Vegas, but the vagus nerve, right? So vagus nerve, this is the nerve that comes out right under your earlobe. You push right up in the top of here. There's something called your brain stem, right? There's a vagus nerve that comes out of there. If you look at the chart, there's a big old black nerve that goes all over your body. The vagus nerve is what regulates that we call it parasympathetic function. Have you guys heard of like the fight or flight, right? There's fight or flight, and then there's the rest and digest. The rest and digest, this is your parasympathetic. This is what helps to regulate organs. Well, when the vagus nerve is stimulated, there is a proven scientific fact that you can increase metabolic function. Go one more slide. And what it talks about is this whole thing is basically says that when there's pressure on the vagus nerve, your body, metabolically speaking, goes into chaos. And that when you remove pressure off the vagus nerve, metabolically speaking, everything comes back into balance. How freaking cool is that? Right? And doctors know this so much that there are now surgeries where they will implant a stimulator into your spine on the vagus nerve where they can stimulate it to turn it on. I think an adjustment's a lot better. People are like, I'm nervous to have my neck popped. I'm like, would you want me to inject a stimulator into your spine? Like, this is a much better option, I promise. So when you look at this whole concept, literally, if your neck is not in alignment and you're wondering why you've been having some issues with connecting, watch, go one more slide. So these are a lot of issues. If you look at all these things and you're like, man, I didn't know that acid reflux was connected to my spine. Man, I didn't know that ear infections in my kids were connected to their spine out of alignment. Like these are just a small few. But when you look at this, you're like, shoot, this all boils back. And this is why chiropractic is so big. Like, think about this. Like, why in the world, as a chiropractor, would I be putting on a 3-hour seminar about metabolism? Because ultimately, as a chiropractor, when you get your nervous system into balance, everything else in your life becomes back into balance. And when your nervous system is not in balance, everything else in your life becomes out of balance. And this is wild when they look at how many times we've gone our whole life and never actually had this checked. Think about that. You know the average, let me ask you, you guys guess, what's the average age before somebody goes and typically sees a chiropractor to have this system checked? What's the number? Give me an age. 41, what was it? 60. Oh my gosh, I hope not. So the average age is 47 years old. Okay, let me ask you this. If you went 47 years of your life and you never brushed or checked your teeth, what would your teeth look like? You might not have any teeth. Does that make sense? That's disgusting. But here's the problem. A lot of us think that we've never done anything intentional for our spine our whole life. And all of a sudden, I get people that come into me in their mid-40s and they go, Dr. Mike, why is it so bad? I'm like, you just haven't, you're that person, right? Like you've never brushed or flossed your spine in 40-some years, and here we are. And the idea is that we all have chronic stress on our body, physically, spiritually, emotionally, chemically. Like you just can't get away from it. Like thinking about the world telling you that you have to have a stress-free life makes you feel more stressed, right? Like you don't get away from the postural stress of being on a computer all day, the phone stressors, like all the things, they don't go away. So when you look at this has to get evaluated. So when you look at like, typically if you go to a chiropractor, you want to make sure they're doing it the right way. Like you want to make sure they're actually evaluating you the right way, and they're not just saying, hey, does your neck hurt? Sweet, lie down. Watch me pop it back in. Like you don't want that person. So if that's happening, run. What you want is that if the nervous system is what we're talking about, the nervous system and the spinal alignment, if these two things are important, then we should evaluate those two things. Does that make sense? So what we do in the office when you come in, you actually get a nerve scan. So if you're a patient, this looks familiar. If you're not a patient, you're going to have one soon. Don't worry. But the idea is that you want to get a scan that actually tests to say, hey, are your nerves working? Lisa in her testimony video just said, like, we looked at her nerve scan to see where was she out of balance. It doesn't make sense for me to guess and say, I don't know, maybe you're out here. Like, we're going to scan and find out, hey, where in your body are things out of balance? And let's let your body tell us what's going on there. Does that make sense? And once we identify what's going on, well, now we want to take x-rays. Because again, there's no guessing, there's just testing. We're going to take an x-ray to find out, well, where is this actually coming from? We see that the nerve is being pinched. We know that that nerve is causing you to have these nasty migraines. And we know that because of that, you're also on this like Amitrex stuff over here. So how do we trace it back over here and say, well, where is the spine out of alignment so we know where it needs to be corrected? Take an x-ray. So this is a patient of mine that came in to see me a while back, and she had chronic lower back pain. And do you guys see how this is a picture of, from the front this way, your spine should be perfectly straight and your hips perfectly level, okay? So looking at that picture right there, the L means that's her left, that's the right. Do you guys see how her hips are crooked? Yes or no? Yes. Can you see how her spine is crooked? Yes or no? Yes. This is called scoliosis, right? We've heard that word. Scoliosis is where you should have a straight spine, and her spine has this bend off to the side here. And she's been adjusted, but she's never had someone like us actually x-ray to look at it. So when she came in, I saw this, and by the way, this girl was 21 years old. She's young. Came out, and I took the x-rays, and I said, well, this is the problem. So I said, we need to work on getting this corrected. And she's like, cool, what do I got to do? And we laid out a plan. There's a lot of people that are sitting here thinking, I don't have time to go and work on this. Like, I got enough stuff on my plate, right? It's okay. This girl's 21 years old. She lived in Scottsdale, North Scottsdale, and had no vehicle. And I told her, I said, listen, I get where you're coming from. So here's what we can do. If you want to fix it, I need you here 3 days a week. If that's what's going on, I need you here 3 days a week. She said, all right. And I'm telling you this story because there's a difference between someone who's like, hey, I'm going to figure it out, versus someone who's like, I'll just wait. I'll wait until it gets bad enough. Does that make sense? She's like, I'm going to figure it out. And this is a true story. This girl Ubered to my office from Scottsdale 3 days a week. And I tell you that because when you commit to something, you're going to see fruit. So after we took care of her, we re-x-rayed her. This was her spine afterward. There's no guessing that she's better. You guys with me? The fruit's right there. And here's the thing is when you see this, like, we want you guys to not only get this evaluated, but then get to say like, oh man, I want to know that A, I feel better, and A, I can go out and play with my kids, or I can go out and exercise, I can get my life back, but I want to know that it's actually getting better, and I want to see that all the way through. So then you want to know, great, there's no question about it, right? So there's so much specificity in what we're doing. And again, do you think that she was happy Ubering every single time coming? Probably not, right? But she made the most of it, and because she did it, do you think she's happy afterward that she did it? Yeah, heck yeah. Has her life back, no longer suffering, no longer going through all that stuff. So here's what I'm going to tell you guys. Go one more. If you have a yellow folder, where's your hands? Hands up if you have a yellow folder. Don't you hide. I can see your yellow folders. That's right. So if you have a yellow folder, here's the thing. We want to give you an opportunity to become part of this family. I'll be very bold and tell you guys, like, I want you part of my family, because if you've never had your spine checked, you have to have it checked by somebody. And if you don't have a chiropractor, I'll tell you, I want to be your chiropractor. And I think that you want to get it, again, if anything that we said up on the stage resonated in any way, then I pray that this like aligns and that you make a move. If what I said, you're like, this guy's crazy, then that's all good, I understand. But here's how this works. If you wanted to come in, I'm going to be very transparent and lay it out. Coming in the office, first we do an exam, we sit down, we figure out what's going on. What's happening? What do we need to be focusing on? What are your health goals? What are you trying to achieve? And then we do a consult where we break it down and figure out a game plan, okay? Then we do that nerve scan I talked about. You get a full digital nerve scan. Then we take digital x-rays of everything to know, again, not guess, and see what's going on. What kind of sports injuries do you have? Have you been through car accidents? Are you a mom who has a bunch of kids that you've nursed for many years and your spine is now going like this? Like, what's going on in life and where do we need to identify? Now, I asked, my sister-in-law works as a nurse in a hospital, right? And I asked her, just for the heck of it, I said, let me ask, if I went into the hospital and I said, I want a consultation with your doctor, I want a full exam, I want a breakdown, I want to get a thermal nerve scan of my spine, and I want a full digital x-ray set and a review, what would that cost me? What do you guys think? It was like a few $1,000s. And I was like, well, it's not doable. So in full, again, just so you guys see it, in my office, if you come in off the streets, $210. And the reason why is I think it should be affordable, it should be reasonable for people to just have this done, right? $210. Today what we're doing is if you decide that you want to come in and have us, check your spine, evaluate this, what we're doing is it's just $52. Like, it's the cost of a dinner tonight. $52, right? You're going to fast tonight, so that way you can make your appointment. So this is what we're going to do. So tonight, so here's what we're going to do. If you have a yellow folder and this resonates, you're like, shoot, I've actually never had this checked. I should go get some x-rays, or I should get this checked out. What we're going to do is in the back, honestly, if you look back there, she's raising it. Woo, raise a girl. Swing a girl. So that's honesty. You're going to go back there, and she's going to help you find a time that works for you. And even if you don't want to do that, here's what I'm going to ask you. If you have a yellow folder, if you don't want to do that, there's no pressure. It's totally fine. As a gift for you just coming to our event today and just being a blessing, like, we have a gift for you. So there's a bunch. If you have a yellow folder, do me a favor, head back and see Honesty right now, because we have a present for you to walk home with. Dr. Alanna talked about elements, and we talked about protein. So there is a shaker bottle with some element sticks in there. So please go back. This is our gift to you as a thank you for showing up today and being a part of this event. So don't be awkward. Go ahead. Yeah, right now. Go get it, girl. So if you have a yellow folder, go ahead. Get your thing. Clap them up. Yes. Go walk and get it. Give me some tunes. So as we close this out, guys, here's what I want to encourage you. This is about taking action and moving this forward, right? If you're doing the challenge, I'm going to ask you one more thing. If you're doing the challenge, there's a grocery shopping tour that we're doing that I talked about. Sprouts yelled at me last time because I took like 50 people in there and they freaked out. So I can only have 10 to 12 people at a time. So if you want to be a part of that shopping tour, I need you to sign up for a date so we can make sure we have enough people coming at that time. So if you're on the challenge and you want to be a part of the shopping tour, please make sure you go see Dr. Olivia and the team and signed up for a shopping date. If not, here's your thing. We're gonna rock forward this next 40 days, and I want you to take today and you put it back into application. Amen? All right, I love you guys.